All right, welcome everyone to episode 2 of the Machines of Hate podcast. We're doing the big one today, Demanufacture. Getting it out of the way nice and early because, why not? It's the big one. It's got to be talked about at some point. So
The breakthrough.
the breakthrough album, yeah. And I was thinking, where do we even start with this album? Because it's like such a landmark album. But I was thinking we need to do this for all episodes now. We should start on the artwork, because let's pretend it's back in the day. The first thing you see is the artwork, isn't it? Usually.
Da 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 da.
There it is.
Indeed.
And
Yeah, I quite like the design of it. The barcode / spinal rib cage.
yeah, for me, it's always I like the design, but I feel like the color scheme is what makes it so. That's what makes it really stand out to me. Is that purpley sort of color scheme? It's really different, isn't it? Especially for a metal album. But I think that's where they're coming in from. That that color almost represents they're bringing in more modern electronic sounds into it, and you can almost see that represented in the artwork. It's they're diverting away from that more old school designs and stuff, because even Fear is the Mind Killer, that's quite different, isn't it? It's got the big cog on it and stuff. So
yeah, it definitely had a very industrial feel. Did that? I think this is more it's more of a statement, isn't it? That's kind of what they're doing with the album being a concept album, but this time around the artwork does kind of represent more of what you're getting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's the black background, isn't it? You've got the main image, but then it's just black in the background. It's almost representing that clean sort of production in a way. I guess, I don't know, that's just the way I see it, because you look at Soul of the New Machine, there's quite a bit going on in the background and stuff.
It's an interesting contrast of color in it, but I think the thing as well that's quite iconic is if you see that ribcage / barcode without seeing the font of the logo or whatever, if you just see that piece of imagery, you know what it is.
Yeah.
If you've ever listened to Fear Factory at all, the second you see that, if you were just to just see the barcode on a patch without the name at the top and the album underneath, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's Fear Factory.
Yeah, you're probably not going to forget it. But I actually like how they've got that huge logo on the top. It looks so 90s, doesn't it? Just smack bam, and the really stretched out Fear. It's it looks, yeah, it's very, very 90s.
It always used to wind me up when you'd see them with Foo Fighter t-shirts and stuff like that, and both being FF.
Oh,
They'd try these little logo designs and stuff, and it's no, there is only one FF.
Yeah.
Go away.
I feel like Fear Factory got away with that when they started doing it inverted.
Yeah, there's a t-shirt that it's one of the few. It might be on a hoodie and a long sleeve and a short sleeve t-shirt, but it's literally got all the different FF logos down the back.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and it's interesting what they've done over the years. There's been some quite interesting ones. The Archetype one, I thought, with the bones and the metal and stuff like that. But the way that they've done Aggression Continuum with quite the sharp pointed edges and stuff like that, I like how they just tweak it a little bit with every album. Something a little bit.
It's just
different.
a fun little addition, isn't it? It's just oh, what's the new logo going to look like? It's just a little seasoning on top, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, where do we really start with the music, or do we talk about the production first, maybe? Because
that's an interesting
we already started
story,
that chat a little bit. But I was rewatching a couple of interviews to sort of remind myself, because I remember it was quite a crazy, long-winded process, wasn't it, to get it all recorded and for the vision to be complete. But I was listening to an interview with Dino, and I think he said they first went to this place in Chicago, of all places, because there was bands I think they at least said Ministry, but there was a couple of other those industrial bands that had recorded there. But they said they got there and it's an absolute shithole. The equipment's not working. There's people doing drug dealing around there and stuff, and they were like, "What is this place?" So I don't know if it would it's missed its heyday or something by that point, or it's just like that. And the other bands maybe it wasn't the studio that was magic; it was more the bands. But he said something like they spent like well over, I think it was like 15 grand or something, like basically on that endeavor to go there, and then they were like, you know what, the computer's not even working properly, so if we hit record, we might lose everything. So they were kind of like, we need to get out of here and go somewhere else. And then it was New York, right? They went to a studio there.
Yeah, and I think there was sort of a change of personnel, wasn't there? Like we were saying, the Colin Richardson mixes of Zero Signal and Body Hammer that you hear on Hate Files later on. It's like it's a very different Fear Factory if you listen to that, especially Zero Signal, where you're going from harsh vocals to a clean chorus, whereas the Hate Files version is all clean, kind of.
I mean, part, and there's a little bit somewhere in the middle, but the intro part is like singing wise is completely different. But most of it sounds similar, but yeah, that is like really odd. But obviously the general sound of it is like completely different. It definitely sounds flatter. I mean, like I said, I should have listened on like some proper equipment to check it out. But I don't know. It was almost like produced more like some of the previous work in a way, rather than trying to adapt it to that new style. Maybe, I don't know.
It felt like there was a lot more emphasis on the guitars. That there wasn't as much of the sort of synthetic aspects, the industrial, the samples and stuff like that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't say that Demanufacture is a particularly heavy album for that compared to, later albums and such. But if you sort of listen to them side by side, I don't think that they would have had that image and that sound and that recipe and that formula that they've got now if maybe they had carried on and, Colin Richardson would have done the whole album. It's interesting to listen to how things could have turned out, but if you look at what work they've done with Reese Fulber over the years, it's kind of a no contest, really.
Yeah, 100%. And like before even they decided to stop working with him and switch over, like there was a problem with the tone as well. I remember like Dino said like there was like almost like a week's worth of arguments or something over like what the tone should be, because he was sort of like he had this vision of like this, I guess, more modern sound back then. It would be considered that way compared to I think the producer wanted to keep it more like death metal style kind of like tones. But yeah, and Dino had some like sort of modified like amp, didn't he?
Yeah, was it a Marshall amp?
Yeah, so Marshall. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember listening into it. I think I'm sure Dino said something along the lines of it were Eddie Van Halen and his sound that kind of inspired him. And I think when you're a band and you're sort of up and coming and you're trying to get yourself out there, you've got to establish an identity and a sound pretty quickly, right? I mean, if you were to listen to any modern Disturbed album, not knowing that, say, for example, they've released a new album, you'd be like, oh, yeah, it's Disturbed. Or it's Korn, or, take any artist, if it's a well-established artist, and it's not something like, the Path of Totality, where Korn dabbled with a bit of dubstep, you could listen to it and go, oh, yeah, it's such a person, such a band, or whatever. I think they needed that, because, I mean, I don't know if maybe a couple more albums of the uncertainty of what exactly they wanted to be, following on from Soul of a New Machine, for example. Are we death metal? Are we grindcore? Are we industrial? What are we? You kind of need to make your decision and double down on it quick.
Yeah, because I see some people saying like, oh, tone doesn't matter that much. It's more about the riffs, how you play it, the production. And I'm like, I think that depends on what style of music you're playing. Because in this case, like, it's clearly like it was very important, and that's why he was arguing about it. That there was a vision there, and it needed to be this specific thing. I think modifying the amp is like, it's like a pretty clever way of doing it, because you've then created this, like, now it's easier to make your own custom tone, isn't it, right? But back then,
well, that's what I was going to say, yeah,
dependent on the amplifier itself. But now we've got like amp simulators and stuff. You can put hell of a lot of effects on there and make something unique quite quickly, I guess. But back then, like, yeah, you literally had to, it was all analog, so you've got to get in there and modify it yourself if you really want to stand out. But yeah, I'm not even sure what that process looks like, but it's all interesting to me that someone can get in there and change it all up like that.
I mean, it must have been a hell of a job. You've really got to know what you're doing, you know, to do that, because like you say, in a digital interface, you know, like Dino says, now they've moved to a digital format. I watched a video not long back where he kind of showed the setup he was using on stage. He's like, there's 4 different bits. This does this, this does that, yada yada yada. I've got all my things built in. I mean, I bought the Tone Forge Disruptor, and it's got the different sort of amp settings and stuff, and the different sounds in that. And you can tell, but like you say, to physically modify it in the same way that, you know, Grover Jackson started by modifying Fender guitars and stuff like that, you've really got to have some knowledge about it. But it's a painstaking process as well. Like, if you were like, like, I know Dino likes a good bit of attack on his pick sometimes, you know, you can sort of hear that, you can feel it sort of rattle off the strings when you're listening to it, you know. On digital, it's so easy to just change one thing and be like, oh, there you go. Not so simple when you've got, you know, an amplifier. I mean, I don't know if it was tube amp or what. I don't know too much about the technical details, but I mean, certainly when you're working with a physical piece of hardware, you know, not a straightforward job, but better than me, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Like, when I've been making my own tones, like, you can get so carried away with it, can't you? That you can just keep tinkering, and then you're almost like, oh, I've gone past what I wanted now, and now I've forgotten how to get that sound back. But it's not just the amp, though, is it? You've got pedals, you've got your string thickness, string type, you've got your pick type, you've got the guitar itself, you've got the pickups. Like, there's so many different elements that go into it, isn't it? It's like you can tinker around with it for ages, but yeah, they definitely locked on to like the right thing there. But yeah, you're talking about going digital. I remember even Metallica like have been digital for a while now, because they said like it was, you know, they did so much heavy touring that it didn't matter how well set up their equipment was. It was almost like you're in like a really cold environment and then suddenly really hot, like that. Even things like that can mess around with like your tone and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's crazy. Whereas like if you've profiled it, like, you know, digitally, then essentially it's going to be more consistent.
Yeah, you get what you want, and it's probably the best way to do it these days. In fairness, you know, technology changes, certainly in sound and stuff. I mean, like I have a Boss Katana 2, was a craft edition for my guitar. I play bass more these days, but when I do play guitar, and you've got 2 different settings and then 4 different dials to adjust so many different bits of change. And like you say, it only takes me to not one thing to be like, where were that? You know, I'd hate that if I were performing. But I mean, when you've got your own established sound as well, you know, like if I were using Tone Forge again as an example, and I wanted that Genexa sound, it's lovely that you can just click a button and it's all right there. Or if you wanted it to be a bit more like Demanufacture, click it again, it's right there. It's like Dino's guitar, isn't it? I mean, we watched him play through Demanufacture live together, didn't we? And you know, for the majority of that, he had his Ibanez. I think it was an Ibanez. I don't know if it was an Ormsby, but definitely with the logo on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, when you get into custom tech and things like that, that's how you get that signature sound. And I want one of those guitars.
It does look really nice. Like that color on it. Yeah.
I know.
I always think that looks badass, and I was hoping he was going to bring it out, because I know he's been using that headless one, so I was like, oh, I hope he brings out the old Demanufacture one. I think it's an updated one though, because I feel like on the 20th anniversary it was Ibanez and now it's Ormsby, is it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not sure when the jump was made. I know that he really likes the brand and stuff like that. You know, fair enough. If it gets the sound you want, it's the quality you want, then that's great. You know, I've never read anything to say that him moving from Ibanez was anything but amicable. You know, just that he found something that suited what he wanted, and you know, fair enough.
Yeah, definitely.
They're never short of artists, these production companies, anyway, are they?
No, that's the thing. Yeah.
You can easily find someone else.
Yeah, well, they're all competing, I suppose, as well. Like, it's not always exactly what the artist is going for, isn't it? It's like what kind of, you know, it's business, isn't it, as well? So I suppose there's that aspect, but honestly, it seems like, I mean, I don't know enough about guitars, but it always seems like to me, like it's more the strings, your pickups, your pick, your pedals, amp, like whatever you're using. Like, to me, that seems like almost like a bigger part of it, especially now, but I don't know. I'm not an expert.
Definitely an amalgamation of everything, isn't it? You can't, if there's one thing that's different, you can hear it, you can tell.
Yeah. I mean, when I've used different guitars, I use an Ibanez, and like when I've used different guitars, for me, what throws me off is literally the shape of the guitar. Like I've just tried so many different ones, and I'm like, I just can't get used to it. I mean, I would eventually, I'm sure, but that's what throws me off. So then you would get a different sound out of it because obviously you're not playing it correctly, I guess. So there's things like that.
That's it.
Yeah.
The first guitar I got was actually a present from my fiance for my birthday a good few years ago now, and it was a 7-string Jackson, and that, you know, it was sort of a lower end one. I understand she didn't want to sink a lot of money into a guitar for me to, you know, not stick with the hobby and stuff like that. Thankfully, I have. But like I say, I play more bass these days than I do guitar. But you know, I tried playing Fear Factory on that, and no matter what, it just sounded wrong. You know, it's got 2 humbucker pickups. It's got 3 positions on the pickup slider where you can be, you know, more more towards your strings or further up towards the, you know, coming towards the headstock and stuff, depending on where you play. Not headstock, the neck. And no matter what I did, it wasn't the same, you know. And I kept showing her that demanufactured guitar, like, you just buy it. Yeah. But yeah, no, I've not managed to convince her to do that yet.
You know, they were playing with a 6-string tuned down to B, because like you tune that low, it's like those strings are super loose, like, but again, there are different types of strings, so maybe that's what we're doing. But you know,
they must have been really heavy gauge,
really tight palm muting sound. You need a very taut string. So I bet when they moved over to like 7 strings, that made a big difference, because suddenly you've got more tension in there, I guess.
I got my cousin bought me a 5-string bass guitar for Christmas. It was kind of like a birthday and Christmas present, because he just had a lot of things going on. They were like, I'm going to get you this guitar, and when it came through, tune it down to, well, I played in B with E underneath to start with. You know, you can play a replica with that, quite a lot of the stuff from demanufacture, which is really good.
Yeah.
But then tuning it even just down to A, so you're only going down a full step. You know, so slack on the string, and I'm like,
And you think that's a lot of the songs, isn't it? A lot of the songs are in A. So
exactly.
Not demanufacture. It was obsolete onwards, wasn't it? Where they started using A more. But,
yeah. And the blag of it is that I had to get 2 sets of strings just to kind of figure out what I'm going to need to make it work. Not cheap on bass guitar. They're like 30-40 quid a pack. You know, they're not the cheapest of things. But I had to go 2 gauges up to still get a relative reasonable amount of tension in that top string. So, you know, it's an interesting one, you know, and I suppose it shows how the technology's evolved as well, and the instruments they've been using. I mean, like you say, I'm probably wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure, as you rightly say, it were 6-string tuned down to B at the top, like B, I don't know if it's E or D underneath. Again, same with the bass guitar. I think it would be with an E tuning underneath. Pretty heavy stuff for, you know, 1995.
I'm almost surprised that Dino hadn't got a 7-string by like demanufacture, because I know like Korn were using them like straight out the gate, weren't they? And I would say Meshuggah was probably using 7 strings by then.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's
I might be wrong. Maybe I feel like he did record with a 6-string there.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And I know that Dino did most of the bass, because Christian kind of came in, if I understand this correctly, as a permanent member, like past the halfway point of recording and things like that. Yeah. Like they had Raymond in pretty tightly. We're doing all the drums and such. Obviously, Burton and Dino as you 2 main founders, if you will. Although that's not to discredit Raymond in any way. Yeah. And then Christian comes in past the halfway point. I think did he say that he contributed to the recording of, is it Piss Christ, a little bit or something like that?
I've always heard like Dino said he did all of it, but I don't know. Like it's hard to know, I suppose. I'm not sure what's in the actual credits, but
yeah, I mean I'm pretty sure, like you say, I think Dino did most of it. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean like a lot of bass in. I mean, I'd say obsolete onwards. I take that back, because in Soul of a New Machine, there's a lot of parts where the bass is doing something different. But I was going to say a lot of the songs, it just kind of follows the guitar, doesn't it? But actually, like I take that back, because there are bits that stick out. So yeah, but I was going to say the majority of it, I suppose, if you can play on guitar, you can play. It's the same patterns on bass right. So I guess it's almost like a no-brainer to do it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I think the guitar and the drums just pair so well together with this album that the bass kind of falters off into the background a little bit. But I know on Flashpoint, for example, there's certain points. I think it's after the chorus or something like that. It kind of dies down a little bit, and then you've got the bass playing with the guitar, and that's probably the first time I kind of heard it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the first time on the album that I kind of clearly, could pick out the bass and know that was the lead instrument in that moment. I thought, oh, this is interesting.
I think the thing is, it's one of those albums where if you took the bass out, it would sound like so thin. I reckon, like it's really backing up that guitar tone. Like it's just doing like the standard job, but it really hits when like you watch some of those. I mean, you've seen it, the one I've put on the intro of Self-Biased Resistor, like that MTV video, because the audio quality is actually pretty decent on that. But like, there's the parts where like it's just guitar, and then the bass and drums come in, and when you hear the bass backing it up, you're like, oh, that's how it's supposed to sound like, yeah. And it's like, holy shit! Like, so it's not, it's actually really crucial. It's just that there's not many parts where it's doing something different or it's isolated.
Yeah.
I think is what you're saying. But it was never going to be that type of album, I guess, where they were trying to keep everything as synced up as possible, in a way.
Yeah. And like you say, going back to the subject of tone, if you will, you don't. It'd be frustrating to have a really nice guitar tone in the way that they've got on this album for it to be sort of overburdened by bass, and you want to hear the attack of the pick of the guitar. If you were to hear the bass chugging at the same time, I feel like it might have a bit too much going on. Then it might have ruined the sound a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of live recordings where I don't know if it sounded like that in person. I highly doubt it. But there was one like from way back in the 90s. You might have seen it. I remember like Christian's got like this like, I'm sure he's got like a green top on, and the bass is just it's like thundering over the guitar, and it does not sound good. Like it's like, yeah, he's really, you can hear the really tight playing, but it doesn't bode well for the overall sound. Like you need it like below the guitar in a way rather than on top of it. It just sounds so weird that way around. And there was a video from, I want to say like last year. It was one of the big festival shows, and the bass was just way too high in the mix. But again, like if you're there in person, it probably doesn't sound like that. It's just what's coming through on the board, I guess. But it doesn't sound good that way around.
I mean, we've been quite lucky, really, in a sense, with seeing Fear Factory over the past few years. We've seen them play with a couple of different bassists. We've seen them play with Tony in Brighton. We've seen them play with is it Hector on the Disrupt tour, and then obviously they've had Ricky on the last tour from Butcher Babies and stuff, and they've all been absolutely spot on. It's been interesting to see how different people take on that role, like the energy and stuff like that. You don't really tend to associate bass guitar too much with being the forefront of Fear Factory, do you? It's always, for me, it's like Dino's riffs, the different breakdowns and stuff, and how the drums can tie into that. Like literally, they sync so well throughout every album. Demanufacture being a wonderful example of that, of how the drums and the guitar work together, literally like the engine of a car. It's so perfect the way that they're done together with precision and timing and things like that. I know they were playing to a click track, but it's like solos and stuff as well. You don't hear a great deal of solos. I'm not one to complain, but
I think it's just because the solos would almost go against like what they were trying to do, because you can't really make that rigid mechanical sounding solo. Like I know there are a couple, but a solo just as is, it will sound more fluid. It will sound more loose. Like you can't really do like that mechanical sounding solo. Like maybe there's something that could be done, but I feel like that's where to get those parts are coming more from vocals or from keyboards and stuff, right? That's where most of the melodies are like being carried, I guess. So I just feel like, yeah, if they wanted to keep that mechanical drums and guitar like throughout, which is what they did, then yeah, the solos just I feel like they would sound out of place. Like, and I'm also
And
like,
it's not.
so at first I think that's what used to annoy me a bit. I was like, oh, like where's the solo? Because like I told you before, I was coming from a lot of bands like Megadeth, Metallica, Pantera, like all these Children of the Bottom, like bands that were like obsessed with solos. And I absolutely love it. But then at the same time, I sort of started to think like, well, we've got like 100 bands with crazy solos already. So why not do the other way around and just not do them and just like really hone in on that mechanical sound? Like, I think it just took me a while to be like, I don't get it, and then I was like, actually no. Like, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it wouldn't really work. Maybe here and there. Like, I mean, there are a couple of songs, like we said, but
Monolith, yeah. I thought that solo in that, albeit a brief one.
Yeah. Is there one on? Is it Soul Hacker as well? Is there one? I want to say it's Soul. Is it Soul Hacker? No, it's definitely on Genexus.
Yeah, it's quite a slow played one, but I mean, it's got to go with the song, hasn't it? And I think that's something, again, that this album establishes in that formula is that, you know, don't expect a fancy great solo between every song. It's not to say it can't be done. You know, if you listen, like I remember listening to the Divine Heresy album. Was it Bleed the Fifth of this album? Oh my God, you know, so some of the riffs Dino were pulling on that, and some of the solos and stuff as well was pretty intense, especially on is it Impossible Is Nothing? Jesus Christ, that's heavy. But
I was thinking that there is one on Fear Campaign. I just remembered. And that that solo really serves the song. Like, it's weird because I think when I first heard it, I was like, whoa, it's a fucking solo. Like, it's not very long, but it's that point in the song where it's like exploding, isn't it? And then it just goes into the solo. I'm like, oh, that's actually, that worked really well in that case. But then like also Mechanize is kind of like, it's a little bit less industrial, isn't it, than some of the other ones. I don't want to get into the album now, but I think it fit better with that sound in a way. Like, whereas like if you put one on Demanufacture, I don't know how that would sound. So.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer the more industrial aspects myself. You know, the samples and bits like that. You know, listening to Zero Signal is a wonderful example.
You don't listen to Zero Signal and think, where's the solo? Like, at all.
Exactly.
It's and you know, Fear Factory's music is really carried by the vocals. Like, the vocals are such an important part of it that I'm so taken with that I'm not thinking about like, oh, we need the solo or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, if you've got a great riff, or you can string a few great riffs together with some breakdowns and, you know, piece together the song in that respect as well, you can still have just as great a song. I mean, shit, listen to Rammstein. You know, in most cases, there's nothing technical there, not many solos, but you get your synths, you get your samples. It's heavy as shit, right? It's still great music. And that's the thing, you know, if it were going to be that sort of thing, it wouldn't sound the same, as you say, and the solo would have to suit the song, as we've kind of said there. We can pick out a handful off the top of the head. It doesn't always need it, you know, to make great music. And I think that's one of the great things about Demanufacture as well. It's just great fucking music, you know. It's not trying to be anything else other than what it is.
I can't think of a song on Demanufacture that isn't like vocal driven as well. Like, obviously the riffs are super important, but like there's not one song without like a hook on it, is there? Even if it's like a all harsh vocal song, like there's always like a hook in there. Like, I'm thinking already, like the title track has already got like no more, goddamn, like, you know, that is a hook, isn't it? Like, yeah, like that, the whole audience will be shouting that at night. Like,
oh mate,
where, you know, moments like that, you're not thinking like, oh, but where's the solo now? I'm like, no, you're focusing on that. Like, so it's a different kind of beast in a way.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of quite nicely takes us into sort of a like track by track sort of breakdown of the album. I mean, let's take the title track right there. You know, this is you know, if you listen to Soul of a New Machine.
Yeah, one thing we've overlooked slightly is you did mention him earlier, but Reese Fulber, right? Because he came in, and this album would not be anything like what it was without him. Like, not just for all the synths and samples and everything he's added, but like you said, he ended up pretty much producing this album, right? I think along with someone else.
Yeah.
I think he had some help,
Yeah.
but he did the majority of it on the end. So
there were two guys, and I kind of feel horrible that I forgot the name of the other gentleman.
Yeah, I think they both worked on because Reese was in Frontline Assembly, which a band I really need to check out because I went and listened to their most like metal album and I was like, this is fucking great. Like I really need to go and do like deep dive on their discography because I liked what I heard. They like you could really tell he was bringing in those electronic elements that really took the album to the next level. And there's one thing that sort of a new machine, it had a couple of little hints at it, didn't it? Little samples, maybe a couple of little electronic bits, but it wasn't really there until Fear is the Mind Killer when they did the remixes, and then that kind of opened the door to like start putting that into basically the full album.
Yeah, I think Lifeline for me were probably the one that was most industrial. That's what I took away from that album.
Yeah.
But I think if they, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's probably a sore point of contention thinking back to like Ross Robinson and what happened with the Concrete album, but you're talking about a guy who's gone on to be very influential in some very big bands. The difficulty is like, would Fear Factory have been one of those bands? I don't know. I kind of think that Reese Fulber just got it. He got the sound, he got the idea, and he just, it's like one of those kind of futuristic, industrial, synth, metal, guitars, fast drums, Terminator, Blade Runner, go. And he went, yep, on it.
Yeah. That's where this album really pioneered for me is those electronic elements. Like, obviously there's the vocals and, the tone, like, it's everything really. But that was the cherry on top, wasn't it? Like, because I still think it would be a good album without it, but it really just enhances so many parts. Like throughout.
Oh yeah, it's like giving it a bit of personality, innit? You can kind of distinguish it a little bit from probably a lot of the other things that were going on in the time. You don't want to. Yeah. I know myself.
This is one of the big sort of like, it's in that it's got a leg in groove metal as well. This album, groove metal, industrial, are obviously the main ones that come to mind. Death metal's kind of pretty much gone almost from the sound at this point.
It's a strange one because obviously, I was 5 when this album came out, but I wasn't having that discussion at the time. But even if you do a bit of research now for people who were around back then, you get a lot of people who say that like, oh yeah, you can tell the influence has come from Pantera, and I'm like, really? Are you sure? Like, I don't.
But
I don't see it.
Here's the thing: like, I've heard Dino say he wasn't inspired by them, but then I've heard Burton say that he was. So I don't know if it was like vocally he was, or he's saying that they all were. It's a bit of a contradiction there, so I'm not sure exactly what happened. And I also heard that they were on tour with Sepultura, and obviously they had what was it? Is it Chaos AD, which they brought in like tons of groove into their sound from there.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I think to a certain level, like, Pantera must be, it's somewhere around there. But then you can go back further than Pantera and there's Exorder, which they got a lot of their sound from them. So it's kind of passed on because you've got like Exorder, then you've got Pantera, then you've got what was I saying, Sepultura, which were taking influence from them, and then you've also got like Machine Head. So I think almost like one way or another that groove metal sound was coming back from someone, like whether Dino got any of the ideas from them or from Sepultura or whoever, like, it was flowing around, wasn't it? That groove style was coming in one way or another.
Yeah, and you had like Ministry, you had like KMFDM. There were a couple bands out there. So there were a poll on Facebook the other day between like, what do you prefer, Fear Factory or Summit Duppy? I've never heard of them before myself, but it was Summit Duppy.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be. Sorry, yeah. And
a
lot of people were like,
checked them out. Actually, I feel like I should.
Well, a lot of people said that kind of if you wouldn't have had Skinny Puppy, you wouldn't have had Fear Factory. So I mean, it'd be interesting to listen to. But then, being inside the head of the artist is a very different thing. Like you say, I know you're quite right. Dino has said that he personally wasn't inspired, or he doesn't think it was inspired by Pantera, and fair play. Although he did fairly say, actually, I really learned to appreciate these guys when they did this, this, and this. Yeah. But by the point that we were, we'd already established ourselves as that sound, so we didn't need to look at anything else really to
I think a lot of
produce
people
this
fall
album.
into this trap at the start listening to this album like I did, because I really was like well into Pantera at one point. I was like, oh yeah, but it was kind of like my way of sort of getting in. And I was like, oh yeah, it reminds me of that, but like way more futuristic. But then like the more I listen to it, I'm like, it's just completely different, really. Like it's very like Demanufacture is very rigid compared to anything Pantera ever did. They were much looser. Like, you know, they've got solos left, right, and center, but the riffs and everything, there's just so much looseness in there. Whereas like this was a much more like mechanical, colder sound, I think. So, but I think on face value, like if no one's ever heard Fear Factory before, especially this album, you put it on, that's the first thing your brain is trying to like think of, because it's that groove element, isn't it? I think that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, sort of tying into like a track by track breakdown, because like even if you listen to that first sort of few bits of Demanufacture as the opening track, when you get that like immediately like, whoa, they're not fucking around now. Everything comes together, and in that first sort of minute, you're like, right, I get it. You know, Soul of a New Machine was like, let's explore what we are. Now it's like this is who we are. You know, if you were looking at it from a point of view of like Soul of a New Machine being like, this is who we are. This is like a hello. This is our introduction. Like for me, Demanufacture was like, this is what happens when you let us out of the cage, and you just let us go and do what we can do.
It was the vision of the band like fully realized at this point now. Like Soul of the New Machine was laying some of that foundation, but like this is the house. Like
yeah, and you know what? You've got to have foundation, you know, and whether you stick to the foundations of the house or not, you know, it's on you. So, some bands can change over the years, and you know, like we were saying before, this cast we were talking about, like, you know, Paradise Lost and stuff like that. 3 very different eras of a band where you've got 3 distinct sounds and 3 fan bases that love all 3, you know, certain ones that love 1 and 2, 1 and 3, you know. I was the same with Linkin Park. You know, I really liked Hybrid Theory through to Meteora, but the more they went on, the more I'm like, I'm not vibing with this so much anymore.
Yeah,
I've never had that problem with Fear Factory, as much as might sound a bit controversial, even as we were saying, that certain album that begins with a T. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. I'm gonna lose a lot of friends.
Yeah, no, there are some bands that come to mind. Like a big one for me is Opeth. Like big fan of Opeth, and like you've got most people say there's the early era, there's the middle era, and then you've got like the new where they kind of went like prog rock, and now we're almost in a 4th era, because like the last album they've started to basically shove it all together, and everyone's like, what the hell is this? Like when I first heard that album, I was like, what is this? I don't like this. And then like the more I listen, I was like, oh, this is amazing. So it's like, it's interesting, because like the prog rock era, I've never managed to get into it. It's one of those where I'm like, I really respect it. The musicianship is like off the scale, but I'm just not like connecting with it. So it's like, it's interesting how fan bases can get like almost like split like that. But I feel like some people with like Fear Factory, they make it sound like it's like gone like miles apart, and I don't think it ever has. Like, yeah, no. the T album was the most it ever did, but even that, I'm like, you know, it's got the double kick, it's got the guitars locked in, it's got the harsh and clean book, it's still got all the elements. So I'm like, it's not as like you know, some people that are like, oh, I stopped listening after Digimortal, or I stopped listening after Obsolete, and I'm just like, what? Why? Like, you got like, at the very least, like Archetype, like you're mad if you're not listening to that if you like the early stuff. And then, I'm sorry, but the last 4 albums, like if you like Demanufacture, you like Obsolete, like I just feel like you're really sleeping on it.
Well, this is it. Like you say, you've got, I mean, Soul of a New Machine were kind of one thing in and of itself.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Concrete, well, I mean, we got it eventually, didn't we? But it's not. I don't think it was how it was intended originally. Then if we look at, say, for example, you go from Demanufacture to Obsolete to Digimortal, that's one era. Archetype and Transgression between, kind of another era. Yeah. You know, you like it or you don't, take it or leave it. Some do, some don't. But then Mechanized kind of harkens back to what Demanufacture were good with, I think.
Yeah.
The reindustrialized harkens back to what Obsolete was, and then Genexus, I won't say so much Digimortal, but then that feels like an amalgamation of everything that came to that point. But it all starts with Demanufacture.
Yeah. The more I think about it, it's that they didn't really go back to this Demanufacture sound until Mechanized, like really, because there are obviously parts here and there. You could argue probably Archetype got close, but it was still very different. But Mechanized like really went back to that cold. Like I can't describe Mechanized any other way except from it feels so cold. Feels like it's even in the artwork. It's like cold steel, isn't it? It's like it's so what's the word? Like it's a word that sounds. Can't think of the word now. Sterile, and it sounds like a really bad word, sterile. But that's how I explain it. You know, a lot of people say like, "Oh, modern productions like really like oh it doesn't." For that sound, that worked. That was an album that required it, and you know, a lot of that sound does sort of harken back to albums like Demanufacture. Like that's where that modern production was sort of coming in, I reckon.
I'd agree with you on that, and I think you can hear in Aggression Continuum certainly certain vibes of it as well. Like Collapse, for example, kind of reminded me a little bit of like a slower version of Body Hammer.
Yeah.
You know, they both got that sort of heavy groove to it, whereas Body Hammer's a bit faster, and it's obviously da 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 da, and then you've got Collapse, which is like da 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 da.
Yeah.
You can see that even years later, it's still got that influence from the Demanufacture album.
I think on Mechanize, I want to say it's Controlled Demolition. That one always reminds me of Body Hammer a little bit as well, but not like it's the same song. Like it's actually quite different. It's just that one riff and stuff. So I'm like,
it's like a minute 30 something. Is that the song you?
Yeah,
I think.
That song was so good. Anyway, we better stay on the right album. So easy to get carried away, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that you can tell how much Demanufacture has influenced, like the band, a lot of the industry. You know, people forget that a lot of people. There wasn't much of what Fear Factory was doing at that time. Not just sort of the clean and harsh vocals, but the way that the drums were being used. They were tying into the guitars, those fast riffs and fast beats that were playing together with such precision. That it was like in a machine.
I wonder if they knew at the time, like when they first started writing these songs, like, did we, is this like the blueprint for our band now? Because that's kind of what it became, was like a general sort of blueprint. A lot of like, we'll get to it soon, but Zero Signal, I think, is like the definition of like that blueprint of like what makes them in a way. But yeah, we'll get to that when we do track by track. But one thing I was going to mention as well, they were actually playing at least a couple of these songs before the album even came out, like 94 maybe. I found some videos they were doing at the very least the title track. I think it sounded a bit different as well. I'll have to go back and try and find some of those. There's not many recordings.
I know quite a lot was re-recorded after Concrete. Some of it that was intended to be on there. So whether or not it were part of that album, I'm speculating. Could be, maybe.
But even the title track, like, I feel like the vocals were like in this weird stage of like, because it was between sort of A New Machine and Demanufacture. It's almost like somewhere in the middle. I was like, wow, it's so weird to hear this song like before it was fully like realized. Like it was awesome in its own way, but it's like you can hear that transition. But yeah, anyway, we better talk about the title track to kick things off. But I mean, anyone who's a fan of this album, how can you not get absolutely hyped off the wall like listening to that intro?
Oh, mate, it's brilliant. It's like I like the electronic opening that it's got, and how the drums quickly establish that rhythm. The guitar comes in. I mean, pretty much within the first 30 seconds, this is Fear Factory. This is, as you said, our blueprint. And then looking into sort of the background of it and stuff, and what were going on LA at the time, that first life, desensitized by the value of life, perfectly encapsulates the kind of shit that were going on when the album was being recorded. And you can kind of tell within the music and the song. I certainly think like the breakdown that it kicks into with the hook, you know, like I've got no more goddamn regrets. You know, it's hardcore, and
I think
it's
everyone
like
just loves that part. It's a lyric that, like, like I said, I always say I'm not a huge lyrics guy, but it's something simple like that. You can take that and apply it to your own life as well, like very easily. Like I know I do, and it's like it just like it connects so many people, doesn't it? Just some simple lyrics like that.
well, it's such an angry the set of lyrics. You know, it's almost like a threat. It's getting in your face. It's not quite a how can I put it? Um, it's kind of like you can tell that there's that theme of oppression throughout the album. You can tell that obviously a lot of that goes back to what was going on in LA at that time, but it's like a declaration of like, do you know what? I've nothing left to lose now. If you're gonna do it, let's fucking go for it.
Yeah, it does sound like someone who's just like stopped giving a fuck. Like it's the best way to explain.
Literally out there. I remember reading things like, you know, at the time they had people on top of shops with like high-powered rifles protecting what they had and stuff like that. And the song kind of encapsulates that in a way, doesn't it? It just kind of gives you that, well, you know, if the system is broken, if this is what we are now, demanufactured, then, you know, you've got to
it's almost like
take care of what is yours.
Like a primal state of like survival in a way, isn't it? It's just like it's like the whole society's out the window. Like the rule book is gone. Like
and it's weird because whilst I don't think maybe I could be wrong. Like I don't think maybe we've experienced that in our lifetimes in our country. We're not a country that really has guns to start with. You know, not that I'm getting into a political debate, just that it's one big difference between us. And you know, that kind of environment can breed danger and, you know, hatred and distrust, paranoia.
It's like how that they just happen to live in that. Well, I don't know how much of the whole city was affected, but I'm assuming it was more of the area that they were in specifically. They just happened to be living there like through that time period, and it influenced this whole thing. And I'm like, you know, the whole lyrics and direction would be so different if they were, you know, 10 miles down the road, which is just wild to think about, isn't it? Like, this is how life works sometimes, just coincidence like that. But yeah, they were literally like in the middle of like a war zone by the sounds of it, and I'm like, it sounds like that when you put the album on.
I mean, yeah, you can hear it, you can feel it. You know, the themes of the album and the lyrics, not just in this song, but throughout the entire album. You know, it's. I remember I was reading a really interesting post, I think on Reddit, when people were discussing the album. One guy said it felt less like a band trying to impress you with the music and more like a set of Terminators that had just come off the conveyor belt trying to kill you.
Yeah.
I thought that's a really good way to put it. Like you say as well, the energy of the song is amazing. The pit on this song is absolutely mad, especially in those hooks. I've got no more.
The vocals is like actually insane. Like, because I've tried to like cover it myself just like for fun, and I'm like, the breathing that you need to do, especially on those parts, is just like stupid. Like you can't catch a breath on that song really. Like there's a couple of little bits, but it's just non-stop madness.
I mean, I've never had the opportunity to see Fear Factory with Burton, unfortunately, but you know, like I love how Milo on that moment as well puts the mic out for people to you know, shout into. It's just such a great song that ties people together. You know, it's like a gut punch is the best way for me to explain it. You know, the riffs are brutal. They're relatively simple, but I mean they're insanely effective. It's just pure chug.
Yeah.
No fat.
Like, performance-wise, like every clip I've seen of like Burton doing the song, even in later career, I'm like, he's still fucking going for it on there. Obviously it's like an all harsh vocal song, so I think that could help in some way where it's like you're sticking with one style, except that very short bit at the intro, and then you kind of like locked in with that same style like throughout. But I was like, God, like even his like 40 something, he was still like absolutely belting that out. I mean, you can't deliver that song any other way. You can't half-ass it. People are gonna know.
Yeah.
People are gonna know straight away if you're not fully you got to get yourself mad to get those kind of vocals out. Because I feel like I'm just an amateur, but like when I've done like growled vocals where it's like that more like death metal style, like you can kind of get away with like you're relying more on technique in a way to get that, to produce that sound. You don't need to be like fuming mad, but with this, because you're like actually like you're like throwing your voice out, like you've got to like almost be shouting. This is what this new style was. It was so that's what I'm still obsessed with. It's just like it's this weird hybrid vocal approach of like almost like a shout. It's between a shout and a growl, somewhere in the middle. It was never done before that, as far as I can tell. I've never really found anything. I'm like, oh, it sounds just like that. A little bit of Godflesh maybe, but I still think this was like next level, really. Next level kind of style. And I'm like, yeah, from my own experience, you can't just like half-ass that. You really have to be, you got to get yourself psyched up to shout like that.
Well, this is it. It's interesting, isn't it? A lot of the things that you can read about, like interviews and stuff like that, where the band have said, a lot of record labels would listen to the harsh vocals and be like, yeah, this is kind of what we're used to, and then they're like, oh no. But then when you embrace that, and you work it into your blueprint, for lack of a better word, I mean, it's such a powerful tool. I mean,
it must have been weird because like there was no point of reference. Like when a new sort of vocal style like that comes along. To be honest, to this day, I've never really heard anyone who can sound exactly like him. Like even Milo, like I think he's really, really good. But it's just one of those styles that was very much his own thing. Like you can't replicate it.
Yeah. And obviously it's become. It became the staple of the band, really, didn't it? In terms of the vocals, never really changed much over the course of X amount of albums. Is it 11 albums, something like that?
Wouldn't have it any other way.
No, neither would I. It's one of the best things I love about it. The kind of touching on bass guitar again for a moment. I think bass is the one thing that kind of takes a back seat because the vocals, the guitar, and the drums together are just.
It would be too much, wouldn't it? In a way, like it's just there to back the the general like rhythm section. That's all we can really do in the space like that, I guess.
Yeah, and to fill that sound out, I mean, the way that Raymond plays the drums, certainly on the title track itself, Demanufacture, the kick patterns, and it is almost mechanical. I've seen.
We didn't even talk about the kick. Like the sound of that is like something else. Like that really clicky sound. Like. I see some people who just still don't like it, and I'm like, I get that. I've heard some bands where I'm like, I feel like that's just too clicky, like for that style. But in this sense, when you've got, the guitar's tuned in that way with that sort of tone, I'm like, it needs to be like that to really come through and give that very certain vibe, I guess.
I think they can be too punchy as well. Like when we watched Fear Factory last year with Kerry King, the bass drum on that, it was killing me.
Oh yeah, but that was because it was literally like right in front of us, wasn't it? Like I reckon if you were in the back of the room, you might have been all right.
But I kind of think
when you've got a support band and they don't use the same kit, they're right up on the front, aren't they? Like right there, so you're almost like hearing the real kit as well as what's coming through the speakers, I guess.
Yeah, but I think what I'm trying to say in a sense, maybe I'm not wording it so well, but sometimes you can find that more of a on the bass as well, the bass drum specifically, sorry, can really kind of ruin that overall sound. Sometimes you just need just the straight.
It cuts through all the rest of that sound because it's like in a different part of a different frequency, isn't it? Like
yeah. If it was deeper. And it was a more, I'm really struggling to describe it. I'm making a mess of describing this.
It depends how much you want that kick drum to be merged into your sound. Like, because one band that's coming to mind that like really pioneered a lot of double bass, Morbid Angel, I really like them. The kick drums there were like, they definitely had a different kind of sound to it than this, but that really served that sound, like with all that like tremolo picking and everything. It was more like merged together, whereas this is definitely it's syncopated, but I wouldn't say it's merged, because yes, it's playing along to the guitar, but they're very distinct. Unlike that's the drum and that's the guitar. So I think that's what really that's really important, because then you can really go like, oh shit, they really are playing properly in time like that. Yeah.
Well, they did say for quite some time. A lot of people sort of accused them of using an actual drum machine, didn't they? From what I remember reading, they were saying that there's no way that someone's actually playing this. But then I've seen a video of, might be a replica on like a TV program of some sort back in the day, like maybe a talk show and maybe a music show, one of the two, and you just look at Raymond playing, you're like, wow. Just
it's the real deal. Yeah.
If people are impressed by Thomas Hock with Meshuggah, like literally look back to him back in his prime, he were fantastic.
Yeah.
And a lot of those patterns, a lot of the way that they use the drums, I'd say it's influenced quite a lot of way that drummers play in modern metal as well. To be fair, certainly metalcore and things like that.
Both Fear Factory and Meshuggah, like together in a way, both influenced a lot, surely, from that kind of playing. It was like quite revolutionary, different way of playing, isn't it? That whole like locked in with the guitar approach, like.
And you can hear it a lot, certainly in the Demanufacture song itself, because drums are quite at the forefront with the guitars, I think, and even just the way that with the higher production value and the way it's more settled in terms of the sound, if you will, in that blueprint, the identity of how they go. Like even Burton's voice is, much more defined, I thought.
Yeah.
It kind of made me think of what he said in Archetype, where he said, what was it? You must never forget to modernize performance.
Yeah.
You've got to carry on. It kind of makes you think of some of the things they were saying, but the harsh and the raw does feel less experimental now, more locked in, certainly within this song, and it gives the title track of Demanufacture sort of cold, dystopian sort of anti-human energy. Yeah. I thought, and I wouldn't say it was groove per se personally, but it's definitely, if you were to go from one album to the other, having not listened to any Fear Factory beforehand, like everything you listen to after this, you'd know that is the Fear Factory formula.
Yeah,
that's how I'd look at it.
Yeah, it's funny because this album, like, obviously, I'd say overall there's higher accessibility than Soul of a New Machine, like for sure, really. But like this first song, still hits pretty much as hard as anything on the last album. Like it's heavy as fuck, isn't it?
That's what I mean. It doesn't fuck around. It literally just we start as we mean to go on, which is quite good as well, because it kind of sets expectation, but keeps expectation, which is quite good.
It's funny because like I feel like when I used to listen to like all those like, what I would consider like really heavy bands, I was kind of like, how can there be other genres that are as heavy as this? But then like you hear something like this, and I'm like, it can be done. It's just all about the delivery and everything. And I've said this. I don't know if it was with you. It might have been someone else. I think it was a comment I put somewhere. But I'm like, sometimes those start riffs, they just hit so much harder than constant. Because when riffs are just absolutely constant, you get this wall of sound, which is definitely very heavy. But you start to lose that like punch, don't you? When something's on and off all the time, it's like keeps you on your toes. Like you can't get away from it, kind of thing. Whereas like you listen to something like black metal and stuff. Like after a while, it's just this like wall of sound. And a lot of that doesn't sound very heavy to me anymore. There's more of a shock value than a heavy value with that kind of music. Again, like we'll get to Mechanized, which I think is probably their heaviest, which is crazy because you'd think it would be like Soul of a New Machine, but it's all because of these start-stop riffs, I'm telling you, and the vocal delivery that brings that heaviness.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I do agree with you. It's an interesting sort of evolution of how the band have gone.
Obviously, it all depends on like, if we're looking at the album on a whole, then you've got songs with like all clean singing and stuff. So you can make arguments that it's not heavy because of that reason. But if I'm looking at it on like a track by track basis, like Like, I think a lot of people agree, like, Demanufacture's a heavy as fuck song. Like, it's heavy as pretty much anything on the first album, I reckon.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it's fair to say heavier doesn't always equate to better.
No.
Which is frustrating because you get a lot of people who are, how can you put it, not necessarily fans of music per se. They're very sort of look down your nosy type folk, very pretentious when it comes to metal and music, and they can say, oh yeah, well they just sound like them, or they're heavier, they're louder than they are. And it's like, in one sense it's not a competition, but if we were to make this any sort of louder, any heavier, if you want to use those sets of words, I think it loses its charm. I think this is just that beautiful balance of groove, melody, harsh, raw, mechanical, like all those ingredients come together to make a fantastic song and a fantastic album. I think if they were going to go down that path, then I'm not really sure it would have been the same,
No, I don't think so. Yeah, and last comments on this song, like, I love that little clean bit at the very start. I thought that was a really cool idea. Like, it almost didn't. You feel like if you're going for a song that's all harsh vocals like that, you would just do it, the whole thing like that. But no, it's like that little bit at the start, just sort of setting the scene for the whole album in a way, isn't it? Like you said, desensitized by the values of light. It's the vocal effect on it as well. There's some sort of like, it sounds like electronic almost, like on his voice like that. I'm like, what? Like, you're in for something different when you hear that sort of futuristic kind of voice coming in, like the very first thing you hear. It's like, whoa, what's this? And my favorite part of the whole song has got to be, when the keyboards come in, but not the first time, although I love that bit, but when it goes like half-time feel, that's when like live everyone just starts fucking jumping like crazy, and I'm like, that's how they it's interesting, that bit, because I'm like, I wouldn't say that in this song there's even like, there's no trace of like nu metal really, but then you've got parts like that where you can still jump to it, everyone along with that, and I'm like, oh, it's my favorite part of the whole song.
I think that's it. I think if you can be all heavy if you want to, but if you don't have any rhythm or any melody, then there's nothing there. Like Deicide were a band that were introduced to me at one point, and I was like, I can't vibe with this. I can't get into it. I mean, I can appreciate it for what it is. Sure.
We touched on them last time, didn't we? Just briefly. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, they're a band that, like, that band genuinely scared me when I first heard them. I was like, I've never been so afraid. I was like, what is this? Like, it's still to this day. I'm like, I feel like they rest a lot on that, like, shock value. I do actually like some of their stuff, but it's the variety is not quite there compared to some bands, I think. But I do,
exactly.
I do really like some of their like early stuff, but I find it harder to listen to like a full album with that, whereas something like this with all the variety. Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that you'll see throughout every Fear Factory album from probably Demanufacture onwards. Not that I'm saying you don't get it with Soul of a New Machine, it's just that was very experimental and less of the formula that we sort of know and love. But you can kind of groove with it. You can, if you can listen to it properly, and it's something my fiance struggled with for years. She just thought, shouty man, drums fast, and she didn't really appreciate it for what it was. And then I remember getting into the car one day. She's listening to like Shock, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then she said herself, it just kind of clicked. And I think once you hear that, that you get that. I don't know. It's almost like it's almost when you're trying to like fine tune something, and you're like, I get it. Once you get into that, it can be very easily to get carried away in the music. And certainly, if you watch them live as well, just Jesus Christ.
Yeah, honestly, that like, I'm not even sure if it is called Halftime. I think it is. That, the bit I mean, though, don't you? Where it kind of like opens up for a second, and it's just like, that bit always blows my mind. I'm just like, it's not even like they did something. It's not like the song changed like dramatically, but little change like that. It's like, whoa. I think because everything's been like at 100% that whole time until that point, apart from the intro. it's like it really feels like the whole thing's just opened up like all of a sudden, and it creates like an interesting like emotion, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, and I suppose it's not something you'd expect from like the death metal bands of the day, and that's one way they really stood out.
yeah,
I'd have said.
yeah, and like I was saying, you can't drop this album, maybe a few little bits, but you can't say that, like, this is a new metal album. Like, they weren't there yet.
No.
So it's an interesting. I'm like, yeah, I'd say there's a lot of groove metal, but at the same time, what's a groove metal song around that time where you can jump up and down like that? And I'm like, they found this weird little. It's like around. There's all these genres here, and they found this little thing in the middle. It's really weird. Yeah.
They found the machine.
Yeah, Self-Biased Resist, the next, got to touch on that. This is like still one of my favorite Fear Factory songs, and I love the title track pretty much just as much. But Self-Biased Resist, just that, it's if you like those start-stop riffs, I can't think of a better song really. It's just like oh, it's so good.
I mean, I just said that Self-Biased Resist is probably the most accessible track on the album. That's one thing I personally think. It kind of, for me, it's like the linchpin of the album, if that makes sense.
I would have thought like Replica or like Dog Day Sunrise, I would say they're more accessible. If you mean in the sense of like this is what the band's about, like overall, I'd agree with that, I think.
I don't know. I mean, I think Replica is definitely the most successful song on the album, but having listened to it, I mean, God knows how many times I've just stuck it on and it's been on my playlist and stuff like that. Like, I almost end up feeling bad for those other songs because I like Dog Day Sunrise, as you can probably tell with the t-shirt. It's a really good cover song, but it's definitely more of a drone, especially with those do.
Save it. We'll get to it in a minute.
Exactly, but bringing it back into sort of Self-Biased Resistor, I just always thought that this one, for me personally, I always thought it was the most accessible track on the album. Certainly, coming into that drone at the end, you can all kind of brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But different folks, different strokes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite songs. Like, love the stop, and I love it's the transitions into those clean bits. It's just done so well that it's quite. I think it's quite a delicate thing, isn't it, to go from suddenly being that heavy into these like opened up choruses like that. It's like you've got to do it right. Otherwise, it's going to sound really jarring.
Literally, the way people just fucking lose the shit in the mosh pit as well when they start playing this song, and they know it's coming, and it's weird. I kind of felt that in this particular song that Burton sounded more detached than he sounded so more angry than detached, if that makes sense. He sounds more like someone who's like fighting against the system. He's like at the forefront of a battle or something like that. And that this song is like a call to arms sort of thing. It reminded me a little bit of how Slipknot had Pulse of the Maggots in that kind of like, like let's fucking get people to rally behind us. Especially where it's like, they try to break you. It's almost like they're reaching out as if to say, don't let them do it, fight back.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
It echoes around my head, those lyrics, like, because it's funny, I always say I'm not a lyrics guy, but like this album has some of those parts where you just can't, like, you can't help but sing along with that in the car or something. I can't. I'm like,
I think a lot of it is relevant today, though, isn't it?
And then I'm like, before I know it, I'm like, they'll try. You can't help it. But I don't know about you. Like, sometimes I just feel like the whole like Western world we live in, it does sometimes feel like everyone's out to get you. Some days. Some days it doesn't. Some days it does. It kind of depends what's going on. Depends what's going on with your work. But sometimes it literally feels like people are trying to break you. Like.
Oh, mate, politics is messed up at the moment. Yeah. I mean, if we look at our country, for example, it always feels like they're doing something to stop people speaking out of having that discourse and arresting people for social media posts and, not that I'm condoning anyone who genuinely does anything silly, but even just not being able to question the powers that be, like, we don't really want you to do that. We'd rather that you just went along with it all happy clappy and did what we told you to do. It's kind of the theme of the album, isn't it? It's like, well, we don't really agree with that.
Yeah.
You know.
So some days it does just feel like it's something comes up, like whether it's a government thing, it's someone on the internet, it's a corporation, it's your employer, like whatever it is. Like sometimes it just, honestly, to me, it just feels like someone's out to get you. Like I know that's not necessarily true. It's more of like it's not they're focusing on you specifically usually, but sometimes you just can't help but feel like that, right? It's like human nature.
So, it's like you as the collective, isn't it? Like
yeah.
I a brilliant example. A friend of mine reached out to me not long back, and we were talking about music. Fear Factory came up. He's invited me to a gig, and I said, "Listen, the next time they come, you've really got to come and see them. I'm telling you, don't buy into all this bullshit you're hearing online where people go, oh, it's not the same way out there, and me. Like, go and listen to them, hear it for yourself, and then tell me afterwards. Approach it with a completely unbiased opinion, and see what you think." We're sort of discussing how the music plays into it and stuff like that. And then it said something to me, and he said, "Oh, you must have seen it on my Facebook." And I was like, "No." And then it just dawned on me that like so many things just automatically get hidden.
Yeah.
They don't want you to see it. They don't want people sharing these views that go against the grain. It's the censorship and the things behind it. You can't even have a proper conversation about even music these days without it getting political.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're like, why can't I see that response? Why can't I see that post? And as you say, then you start thinking, I just feel like people are out to get me now, because I can't even respond to things. I can't see what's being said, and kind of coming full circle.
Sometimes I think like if we think we've got it bad, imagine some countries like the main one that comes to mind is like North Korea or something. I'm like, literally, like you just don't have any freedom. Like it's crazy because we think this is bad, but like imagine living in that kind of society. It's like I can't even get my head around it.
Well, that's it. I think this song kind of epitomizes that. One thing that I always thought were quite interesting. I suppose in the first instance, one of the things that stood out to me is the way that Reese Fulber has been a bit more subtle with this song.
Yeah, dude, I've made a note on this on every single song about what I made a note on what's clean vocals only, what's harsh and clean, what's just clean, what's got keyboards, what doesn't have keyboards. And like Self Buys Resistor, like it's not there, right? There's nothing like there's. Any keyboards? I don't think so.
I think there's little bits of synth and samples maybe in the background just to flesh out at different points, but there's, as you say, there's no like zero signal. Doom, 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 doom.
Yeah, that's what. But you know what's so funny about that is like I've listened to this album like hundreds of times, and I never thought about the fact that it doesn't have like electronic bits on this song, and I'm like, that must have been like they must have realized that actually this song does not require it, and I'm like, that must be true, because otherwise it would have been apparent on the first listen of like, oh, but where's that element? It only dawned on me like after many listens, and I was like, oh, but I wonder if it is to do with that very stop nature, because then the keyboards and stuff would probably poke out too much in a way. You could argue like below the choruses and stuff, they could have had something. Maybe there is, and I can't hear it. But
I think it's one of those things that you tend to only hear it when you go looking for it.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I've never really sat there with my decent headphones on and really tried to listen to it. But it's not. There's nothing like majorly apparent. If so, is there?
No, it's definitely more mechanical and sort of cybernetic than it is sort of synthetic, if that makes sense. Definitely like mechanical first, cybernetic second kind of approach on this particular song. But I always thought it was kind of interesting how the title of the song is sort of like a metaphor in its own sense, because we're not talking about the electronic component that's designed to stabilize voltage in a circuit. It's more like self-regulating oppression, and where the system doesn't need an external controller anymore because it's all been internalized. People are out to get you.
Yeah, I've always really loved the title of the song. It just, even the title starts making you think of things. It's like this futuristic kind of feel, isn't it? Like,
and I think as well, I could hear its influence in. I was talking to someone about this not long back. I said actually I can hear a little bit of this sort of Fear Factory, certainly Self Bias Resistor in the the Burn My Eyes era of Machine Head.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have to say I haven't done like a. I know some of the songs from the album. I haven't listened to like the full thing in ages, so. But I could imagine it. It's definitely those groove elements are there, aren't they?
I mean, I'm not saying it's like for like. Don't get me wrong, but you can hear the influence for sure. I thought. Someone else said Chimeria had similar vibes, and I was like, well,
they came out like afterwards, didn't they? They were like early 2000s, late 90s, I think. I'm not sure.
Well, that's it, and I think it ties back into how this album, this song, and this band kind of had more of an influence on the industry than people realise. You know, they don't like to pretend it. You know, they always like to bring up, you know, the Metallicas and the Megadeths and yada yada yada. But you know, if someone hadn't made it successful somewhere, then no one else would be doing it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, you were saying about the outro of this song. This almost harkens back to you know, like Big God, when it's just like the vocalizing bits.
Oh yeah,
real lyrics. This is that coming back again, but in a different way, isn't it? Way deeper voice. Like, I mean, I'd say this whole album, he was experimenting a lot more with that lower register singing wise, which was a interesting choice in a way. I wonder, like, I don't know, maybe
like a
sort
melodic
of experimenting
drone,
with
isn't it?
what he could do with his full range, I guess. But yeah, I always thought the ending of the song was like really. I'm like, where did that idea come from? Like, I'm assuming like Burton just like felt that it would fit in there or something. But it's a really cool outro.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it kind of brings the tempo back down a little bit, and you know, it almost as you sort of swaying with the beat, doesn't it? That kind of low drone.
It's a perfect example of when repetition works very, very well. Because like I've said this before, a lot of bands do repetition. I'm like, turn it off. I can't deal with it. It does my head in unless it's done very well. And this is one of those things where like that outro, if it wasn't extended like that, it would have sounded cut short, you know. So sometimes you tap into something like that, like you got to repeat it to really hammer it in.
Like a good rhythm, a good hook, melody, whatever you want to say, you know, it can be really, really powerful. And you know, it does kind of use this technique in some other songs. I mean, Linchpin's the first thing that comes to mind. You know, people don't quite realise that as he's singing that chorus, you know, that all my life I felt discarded. In the background, he's still got that you know, and it's like you're sort of using that vocal range, that tool, to add almost like a depth. Now you can use it to complement, like it does in Linchpin, or you can use it to create that melody that it does with this song. And I get caught up in it myself, and you kind of go, oh, it's over already. I'll put it back on repeat just to hear it again.
No, you made me just think, like, when that kind of thing is used in other music, it's not really. Maybe more so now, but back then, like in metal, I don't think that was really being done. Like generally, there's going to be lyrics there. It almost makes me think more of like, I would say more like rock bands, like maybe even like prog rock or something. You know, like what am I thinking of? Like
a Dream Theater.
Yeah, or like Pink Floyd or something. Like I feel like they had a lot of parts like that where there's not necessarily lyrics. It's more like soundscape kind of thing. I wonder if it was almost in a way if people were like, oh, that can't be done in a heavier kind of song. But, you know, you go in your low register like that, he's not growling. That bit still sounds pretty heavy along with those riffs and stuff. So it's all about application, I guess. But.
Yeah, and you tend to get people who you tend to get disbelievers who kind of like, I mean, if we look at, you know, I hate to make a generalization, but at sort of that American business standard, it's like people know what they want, and they'll buy that because they know what they want, they know what they like. If you start questioning that, then you're taking a risk. People don't always like risks, but it's like, you know, if you're to listen to it and you're listening, say for example, you're that one album label guy and you've listened to Napalm Death, you've listened to Godflesh, you've listened to all this stuff at the time that was like heavy, hard hitting, and you know that sound, and then those clean melodic vocals break in, all of a sudden you're like, ooh, this is risky.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, how's that going to go down with a wider audience? We know from our market research, and we know from everything that we've seen in performance of sales of these other records and such, that this works as long as it's loud and shouty and screamy and doesn't do that. But it does it so well, and I mean, Burton
it's
said
in
himself,
the context of the whole song, isn't it? If you take parts like that out of context, like I was just thinking about Big Gold again, because it's actually like it's like it's
look
not
into
really
the
very.
eyes
If you just took that a bit and like a vocal track alone, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? That you're putting on this on a near death metal album, you'd be like, you're off your rocker, mate. But you put it in
Exactly.
the context of the whole song, and I'm like, it has to be there. Like, it just sounds right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And some poor guy in an office somewhere went, you want me to print this and sell it as a CD? It's crazy. But, I mean, Burton said himself, didn't he? He started singing from a very young age. He was singing in church choir, things like that, or at least church chorus and things. So, if you've got a tool like a voice that you can
that's interesting to say about choir. I wonder if it is something to do with that, because I mean there must be parts of choir where it's not necessarily lyrics. It depends which part you're doing.
Like hymns and things like that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and
but then
even in choir, when there are lyrics, it can actually be quite hard to understand sometimes, can't it? So it's almost like you're just getting that tone, that melody. So yeah, it could be something to do with that background, which is interesting.
Yeah, and when you've got a tool like that as well, you want to use it. It's not like Dino plays the same note 24/7. He's got a fully fretted guitar. He can do different riffs. He can do different things. So for him to say, for example, there's a lot of bands out there that I've listened to where literally it's all like, and that's all the drums do all the way through. It's like you've got a whole arsenal in front of you there, dude. You've got 7 or 8 different cymbals. You've got all these different toms, all these different bass drums, all these different, snares and stuff like that. Use your arsenal, because you'd be surprised what you can make. And when you do that, as you see with Burton, for example, on this song, it's if it was all harsh vocals all the way through, it would have lost that wonderful touch at the end of the song. Those clean.
Like the first song on the album, you can really tell was designed with all harsh vocals in mind. But like you said, if Self Bias Resistor was the other way around, like it just those choruses just wouldn't hit the way that they do. Like it was needed.
Yeah, and it kind of brings me on to my thoughts on Zero Signal, if you will, because if you listen to the Colin Richardson mix of Zero Signal, and it's far more melodic, far more melodic vocal. And don't get me wrong, it's not awful, but it's there's 2 versions of the song, and the better one was published for a reason.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I don't know how that original version came around, but I was like, I must have listened to this like years ago, and I think I'd forgotten about it, and I was listening to it earlier, and I was like, honestly, it got a little laugh out of me. I'm just like, but when you're so used to hearing a certain version, and then you hear that, and you're like, what? I was like, what is this? But it's quite funny.
It catches you out sometimes, and it makes me think of I think Static X had a few demos like that as well. Some of these demo songs come out in later years. I think a couple of years ago, Linkin Park released the original Hybrid Theory as it was lyrically, and you listen to in the end and you're like, what is this? And it's that same sort of thing that you're like, this is so different yet the same, and yet I don't feel it.
Have you heard any of the songs before the recordings, like with before Chester was on in the band?
Yeah, they've got quite a few bits and bats out there, and I mean, it's quite interesting.
I actually like. I feel like it's got its own little charm. Obviously, it's nothing like the main album, but that's an example of like, I like to hear it. Like, when you want, like, it's just interesting to hear a different version and like how it was like they were like way more like rap heavy and stuff, and I was like, oh, it's like really interesting to see, because you hear an album like Hybrid Theory, I'm like, you can't just come out with that as your first album. Like, what was the building blocks for that?
Yeah.
And you can kind of hear it in those demos.
It's similar to this though. I mean, if say for example there was a full Colin Richardson mix album, I mean there might be for all I know, there might not. There might just be select songs. But say for example he had his own mix album, and you could sort of compare and contrast. I mean, you might even find yourself thinking, actually, I do prefer some of these versions or something like that. Yeah. I'm not really sure how I feel myself because it's one of the few albums to me that feels perfect as it is. But you can certainly see a difference in tone, a difference in just the overall feel of the song. Zero Signal is the way I describe it is it's almost like as the song goes on, it's like you kind of giving up. It's like you've got someone fighting against the machines who's got like just a little bit of energy left in them for one last fight. And the longer the song goes on, the more that they're like, yeah, I'm losing this fight. It's I'm not coming out here. It's not going to work. And, they just kind of accept it. And I think if you were to listen to the verses and think of the verse as the machine on the attack, and then, the chorus as the human on the defense, if you will, you can really feel it. And then as it leads into sort of the end and it starts dying down a little bit as well with the I am so numb. It almost comes out to like a funeral-esque dun dun.
Yeah,
dun,
it really takes you on like a little journey. The whole song, like it starts and ends like quite differently. Like, the very start of the song, there's a sample, isn't there? Is that Terminator?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Terminator 2, I think. I haven't watched the film, need to, but I remember that's got. And there's one at the start of Piss Christ as well, I think.
Yeah. Is it that down, 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 down?
Yeah,
I think something like that.
But yeah, the bit I love, like right at the start of I'm gonna say this already, that Zero Signal is my favorite song on the album, like without a doubt. I just love it that much. Like it's so good. I love the harmonic thing on the guitar. Like it's just kind of like the same picking. Like is it triplet sort of thing, isn't it? Like on that harmonic, like but it sounds really cool because it's like he's doing that harmonic thing.
Oh yeah, and then
that already is very like it gives a very futuristic feel. Just that alone, because it's like I've heard other bands doing that and bits. Like I'm thinking about like Holy Wars by Megadeth, like. They've got that like bit where they're on the harmonics, like so it's a bit like that. But he's like Dino's just like, I'm just going to do this for a minute, and I'm like, why not? It worked, like along with the drums.
It is so funny that you say that because at this moment in time, I'm literally trying to learn this song and Holy Wars on bass, and they're very different propositions for different reasons. But it almost becomes a test of endurance, like on this particular song from the guitar point of view, like the palm muting staccato riffing is just like so tight, and the percussive attack on the pick, it's got such a mechanical feel to it that once again you could be mistaken for thinking that's not a musician, that's a pre-recorded instrument, that's a sample, it's a machine, and it really isn't. We've seen it live, right? And the precision you have to do that.
This is one of those songs that sounds so ahead of the game for back then. Because I feel like, you can make arguments for this song and that song, but I feel like Zero Signal is above the other songs on this album in terms of that modern feel. Like, to me, it's like everything's going for it. It's the first song on the album that's got the keyboards, a mixture of vocal styles as well. So it's like all those elements are there. And I think that's what really, like, just... Yeah, I don't think there's nothing like that in the world before that, right? You can't like you were saying, South by's Resistor. You could be like, oh, there's a bit of a machine head, and I'm like Zero Signal. Like, tell me what that sounds like.
I can't think of anything.
It just sounds like.
Can't think of anything.
Yeah.
It's so unique, and I think it was definitely a song that really got a lot of people into the band. I mean, I remember being a kid. My dad had gone to this local shop, like I said in the past, and he rented this Mortal Kombat video literally just because I had the game on my PlayStation, and I remember that fight scene between Scorpion and Johnny Cage, ironically two of my favourite characters, and the second that song you kicked in, it made that scene, and you were like, what is this? This is brilliant, especially where it plays through the breakdown, and I mean, I'm not being funny. How the hell Johnny Cage won that fight is beyond me. Scorpion pasted him in that whole breakdown. He battered Johnny Cage, and somehow he still lost that fight. But the only thing that you really come away remembering was the song. It was fantastic, and I remember like the first time. I say the first time when I bought the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. Ironically, I found it in a bargain bin in a local music shop. Wasn't in the best of conditions, but I mean it still worked, right? And then I was like, Fear Factory, I need to find out more about these guys, and that's where my journey started. A lot of people are the same, and if it wasn't Mortal Kombat, like this particular song has been in so many. Like it was in Carmageddon on the PlayStation. I remember that as well. Yeah. A friend of mine had Carmageddon because I think it had like 3 or 4 Fear Factory songs in actually.
There's not many like heavy bands I can think of where people discovered them in this kind of way. Like the one thing I am thinking of recently is Master of Puppets was on what's it called? Stranger Things, right? So a lot of newer fans got into the band that way, and this is almost like flipped the other way around. This was right at the start of their career. People got in that way, but there's not a lot of bands I can think of where everyone was like, "Oh yeah, it was on that." Maybe some more 2000s songs that were on games and stuff. But this is an interesting one because you see so many. I'd love to know how many Fear Factory fans got in from this film because it seems like loads, like of the older crowd, like more often than you'd ever think.
The crazy thing is as well, like I was listening to the album earlier today, and as I was looking at the listens per song, Replica is way up there with like 15 million on YouTube Music. But you're like, I don't know how so many people discovered this band through Zero Signal, and yet even though I mean Replica was the core signal, it is a fantastic song. I'm not going to knock it at all, but to be someone's introduction, you really would have thought that would have been, more up there, and especially with how much media it's been in as well, And there were a couple of bands they sort of dabbled with it a bit in the late 90s, like I had the Duke Nukem games, which I probably shouldn't have had for the age I was, but my mum didn't know what the games were about, so she bought them for me at my request maybe. And Static X had Push It in one of them. That was Land of the Babes. I think you had The Thing I Hate by Stabbing Westward. It was kind of an interesting thing, but I think the fact that it was everywhere as well was probably a testament to people listening to it and going, do you know what, these guys are going to be something special.
You know what's so crazy to me as well is that when they were asked to make a song for this film, it was supposed to be Self-Biased Resistor, and then the company heard this song and they were like, we want that one. I'm like, I get it. Like I really love Self-Biased Resistor, but I'm like, out of choice, you're going to pick Zero Signal, aren't you? Especially for a scene like that.
Oh yeah.
With all the you got the piano at the end, you got the keyboards. Like it's more dramatic in a way. More it feels more like a soundtrack, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, this is it, and I think a lot of people outside of America who are into, metal and stuff like that, you found it through, music shops and CDs that came with magazines and stuff like that. Maybe tape back in the day. I don't know if they ever did that, but like to have it in a big motion picture like that, I mean, it certainly can't help your chances of success, And certainly, when they play it live as well, it's brilliant when they get to the end of the breakdown and just stop for a second and fatality. And then they come back.
I love that they added that in. That was a needed touch.
Mate, it's brilliant. But I mean, like, sort of getting into the song itself, it's like.
Wait, just on that a sec. Do you remember that before that show in Brighton, and then like Dino was like teasing you or something, wasn't he? He was like, "Oh, I've got a surprise for you. Got a surprise for you later during Zero Signal or something," and he just kept smiling at us about it. And then I was like, "What is it?" And I was like, yeah.
Do you know? I'm sure that guy who was about three rows back from us who were filming. You can sort of see the back of my head, and literally, it's just like this was in the film Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat. Oh my God, what a song! It's I mean, it's iconic as the film itself. I know that I saw in a video with Burton once that he sort of mentioned that I think the initial understanding was Sub-Zero, Zero Signal,
Oh yeah.
was supposed to go in the Sub-Zero fight. But I mean, if you've seen the movie, you know that it wouldn't have worked. For a start, the Sub-Zero fight is a lot quicker. It's over and done with much faster. So I don't think you'd want to waste it on that. But I don't think it really goes with the tone of that fight either, because like, sort of going back to the theme of the song, it's got really bleak lyrics that almost feels like a surrender in a way. And the more the song goes on, the more the idea is it just kind of feels like accepting your fate. Like, I'm not going to win this
Yeah,
fight.
it almost slows down before the I am so numb. Like just before
So
that bit, it's almost like acceptance kind of feeling, isn't it? Like
yeah, and it's almost like a bit mournful. In fact, another film it reminded me of in a way was Blade Runner, because it just reminded me of that bit. I know it's probably weird to think of Tears in Rain linked with this song, but it's almost like that acceptance of death sort of thing. And the piano at the end is almost like mournful in
yeah,
the way it sort of plays out the song. And you know, it, it's strange that it's in terms of the feel of the song that it feels like really cold. Um, but then you look at it in the film and it's used to depict like a very hot and heavy version of hell. Well, the Netherrealm, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you'd have thought it would have worked better in other circumstances, but it's just perfect in where it is. Um,
I remember
I
like
mean,
yeah. Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, you can tell why they've used it in that scene, in that fight. Scorpion in the film is very much like a machine himself. In the film they portray him as under the power of Shang Tsung, and you do what you're told, kind of thing. I need you to go out and destroy that guy, which is why it's just perfect, because it never acts human at all the way through. It's just like, right, I'm going to destroy him.
Yeah. Also, like, because you've got the good cop, bad cop vocals, that's almost like a fight within the song as well, isn't it? You've got like the two sides there in a way, so I think that probably helps emphasize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, like, I have a very distinct memory of listening to this song, which is like, it's funny because some songs you get that, don't you? And it takes you back to a very specific place, and then sometimes you don't. I don't know if you have that. You probably do with this song because obviously you saw the film and it's probably making you think of that sometimes. But yeah, with this particular one, I remember I was at like a local show up the road. It's about 15 minutes walk from my house. We don't really get shows here very often, but I can't even remember who I was seeing then, which is funny. I can't remember who I was seeing then, but I remember the walk home. Maybe it wasn't very good, I don't know. But I popped in my earphones and I remember I was absolutely like, I was just playing this album every day at that point because I was like, this is when I was going back to the older catalogue, and I remember the rain was just like torrential, like absolutely horrific. I had my like hood up, and it's just like it was really, really, really bad. And then this song came on, I had it on as loud as my ears could take it, and I was just like, I wanted it to be raining, let's put it that way. It just felt right. And I wonder if it's almost like the Blade Runner thing that you said, because it's that same kind of dark, rainy environment, isn't it? And I was almost like, I can't, this is the perfect way to enjoy this song. It went from, oh, this is shitty, depressing, raining weather, to actually, this is just like enhancing everything right now. And I always remember just walking down the hill, like really enjoying that. And it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes, like, because you can listen to a song 1,000 times, and then one time it will really stick out like that.
It's an interesting song. I think it goes through motions in a way, doesn't it? As the song starts quiet with that build up, and as you say, the samples into don don da don. Very quickly, you're into that. Before you know it, it's very violent, very aggressive, very fast. You've got your harsh vocals that come in. You have your verses and your choruses leading into that breakdown. But then after the breakdown, it's a very different song. At that point, it's almost like you're just running out of steam. It's very melodramatic. It's like, Jesus Christ, I'm not going to last at this rate. And as it plays out, you really go through the motions. And that's what I think is one of the best things about it. It's just a song that you can experience a hell of a lot of emotions to in a very short period of time. And if you're in the pit when that song is being played,
and this is one of those songs that I think Milo does a lot of justice with, especially with that ending. It really, really nails that ending. But I think it's not just him. It's also you got Dino and whoever's on bass. They have that backing vocal at the end, and it just feels like you're floating up, doesn't it? Almost. It's like, whoa, where are we going?
Oh mate, honestly, I could, if they played it every show, I'd be buzzing.
Yeah,
absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, but wasn't that the like at Brighton, and I think like Milo was like sort of like 1 foot on the barrier, 1 foot on the stage, like right at the end of that song. I remember right. It was just like everyone was like reaching up, like yeah, and I was like, that's just something you don't forget.
We met a bloke in a local pub, bless him. He was stood underneath him, so Milo's got 1 foot on the barrier, 1 foot on this guy's shoulder, and he's looking up like, oh, he stood on me, and he's like, get a picture, and I'm like, all right, there we go. So I held his phone, got a few pictures, and then this were brilliant. He went back, they moved into the next song, and you could see the pit going behind us, like it was starting to really circle. And he's like, oh, I think I'm a bit too old for this. And two of us just went, no, you're not. Pushed him straight back. We found out later on that this fella were in his late 50s. And he's like, yeah. You're never too old. Get back in there.
Exactly. Yeah, no, actually, I've just remembered I have a bit of video of that, but I think the audio didn't come out very well. And I'm like, because Milo was like right at the store, I've got like the camera like pointing up, but it was just a special moment. I won't forget that.
No, it's brilliant.
He's kind of made that ending like his own a little bit. I think he goes quite like higher, doesn't he? Like each couple of lines, he goes a little bit higher, maybe.
I think so.
Well, that might be self-biased Resistor as well. I think he does that as well. But I just think like in recent years, like when they do that 3-person vocal like harmony, it's like wow, love that bit.
It's definitely got an energy to it that sometimes, like, it's as good as it is to hear it recorded when you're listening to the song. Sometimes you gotta see it and feel it live.
Yeah, that is a really good live one. Like it just hits like different almost. Like I love both versions, obviously, but yeah, it's just everyone singing along to it really like enhances it, I think. But yeah, better talk about the hit,
the big one.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those songs that I've kind of overplayed it just because it comes up a lot, doesn't it? Like it's one of those songs I've even heard it come on in my local clubs around here and stuff, like waiting for a band to come out, like they've been blasting music and it comes on sometimes. I'm like, oh, playing Replica. And I'm like, so it's a mainstream one.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best known songs by the band in its sort of commercial success. This is where we're very much in the main line now, and you know, if you haven't heard Replica, then what you doing, sort of thing. Like I said, I was looking on YouTube Music, listening through earlier, so I couldn't find the bonus tracks for the album on YouTube Music, but I did find them on Spotify, strangely enough. And I just happened to notice, and I thought 15 million views. It's listens. It's bloody good, and I bet for all those streams they got about £2.50 in revenue.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it's not.
No, they don't pay very much, but I mean it's definitely a song that gave me Blade Runner vibes because of the sort of theme of the replicants never had any choice in how they were made. They never had any choice to live longer than 4 years. Certainly not the ones in the first film. Anyway, it was they were made for a purpose. Any humanity or any meaning that they might have had otherwise through natural birth or just being recognised as equal to human were taken away from them.
Yeah.
It was quite an interesting theme. So that was one thing that stuck with me.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily designed with any kind of love or longevity in mind or anything like that. Despite creating something human, they were effectively slaves, and the song just has this.
That's the parallel to reality, isn't it? Like being like conceived through rape and stuff, like what Burton's singing about. So I suppose there's almost a connection there, as like your life has been predetermined in a way.
Yeah, you shouldn't even exist in theory because somebody's just put the right numbers and genetic sequences together, and bang, there you are. You're just a thing of creation. You're a slave.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you've sort of had your existential value stolen, and it kind of just makes you think, well, you're not unique and you are replaceable. Thus, replicant. You know, you want to misbehave, fine, we'll kill you and make 10 more, no problem. You know, and
I
it's
think,
quite
like,
a harrowing thing to think about.
yeah, and like I guess like in the lyrics, like being being conceived that way, um, like if you're, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like if you were conceived from like rape, your life is almost like gonna be a projection of that potentially, not always, but potentially. I mean,
There's always going to
in
be a
this
resentment, isn't
situation,
there?
it is right. It's like I am rape, I am hate, kind of thing. Like something like that might follow you around, like even if it happened like ages ago. It's like it's weird to think about because you might be born into a situation where you weren't supposed to be born, like you weren't in a environment that was suitable to be raised in, kind of thing. And then just from that in your early life, it can affect everything, can't it? You can be traumatized for the rest of your life from something like that. So it's
It makes me
interesting
think
that
of a line.
one event like that could affect someone's entire life, and it's like what, like it's just so crazy.
It makes me think of a line from one of the songs in Mechanized, whilst it is again taken from Blade Runner. It's just where Burton goes, "That's what it is to be
Oh man,
slaves."
yeah,
It's
don't
like,
get me
oh,
started on that song.
but I mean, this is definitely one of the songs that I'd say it's more upbeat. You know, it's definitely one people can vibe to. It is an accessible song.
Yeah, everything
Definitely,
about it is quite catchy. Like even the riff, like da 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 da.
it's one of the few Fear Factory songs I can play on bass that didn't need a great amount of practice. So for that, I'm thankful. In fairness,
Yeah,
you know, when I look at some of the other songs, like I learned to play Regenerate, for example, you know that were quite testing in sort of keeping the chugging time and things like that. But this is definitely, because it's so bouncy, you can have fun playing it, which is really good. But then you have fun listening to it. You know, it is somewhat groovy. I'd say you can feel the groove elements there, and the hook is. Everyone knows it. I am so filled with hate. Or even before the song, you know, when Dino's like, "Listen, we want you to shout with us now. If you don't, we're not going to play this song. We need to hear you say it. You know, I don't want to
I
live
don't want
that
to live that
way."
way. Again, it's
And
another
you,
lyric. It's another lyric on the album that you can apply to your own life. Like it's, I mean, like I definitely every time I'm shouting that out at the show, I'm thinking of not really what the lyrics are about overall. It's more about I'm taking that and thinking that I don't want to live this way, like something that's happening in personal life. So
yeah, exactly. You don't want to be a product of systemic violence, do you? You know,
no,
a sort of a sin sort of thing. You know, it's like some of the lyrics I like. I think is on the second verse. Is that every day I feel anonymous
yeah,
hate.
that's a good
Like
one.
you can, I can really sort of vibe with that because I mean, you know, I've sort of experienced a lot of bullying over the years. I was in the wrong crowd in high school. I was one of like 6 alternative people in a
Yeah.
school
Oh no.
full of people who hated people like me. You know, I don't know if you heard about Sophie Lancaster, but what happened to her was a stone's throw away from here. You know, she was you know, if you want to call it a goth or mosh or whatever, she was an alternative girl who just went out for a walk in a park with a boyfriend, and people from a different group with different likings and stuff like that, rather awful people, took it upon himself to beat the living crap out of a boyfriend, and she was literally cradling him when they kicked her that much they killed her.
Yeah, it's insane.
You know,
Like,
it's a crazy thing to think about. And we're talking in like, you know, the 2000s, a time where you know something like that shouldn't really exist. So that kind of when he says that, you know, every day I feel anonymous hate, you know, I vibe with that because that were me. You know, that were me with my earphones in, walking down the street, flashing a bad look at every sort of group you come across. Because if you didn't look like you can handle yourself,
yeah,
yeah, you can
crazy.
have some fun.
Yeah,
You know, it's weird how you can relate to a song so strongly in that particular respect. But the theme of the song as well, you know, I think it's a song that a lot of people can vibe with and maybe relate to in different ways. I think we've all had that moment, you know, with the anger and the hatred and things like that. Maybe not necessarily the theme of like rape and things, but certainly rage.
Yeah.
Just things like that, you know.
It's another one of those songs that does get the crowd moving, doesn't it? Like up and down, sort of gets everyone jumping around.
Oh, it kind of reminds me of like it's like the Fear Factory equivalent of like Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit. You know, it's that kind of song that you think, fuck it, I've had a shit day. Stick Fear Factory on. Let's start with Replica, and you know, within minutes your worries. Well, I say your worries are gone, but you feel better.
It's like they're Enter Sandman or something.
Yeah, and to be fair, I like the remix as well. Cloning technology. I thought that were really good on Remanufacture.
Yeah, God, I've got to revisit those remix albums because it's sort of like it's been a while, and like I kind of get them mixed up. I have to go and listen to it properly again.
And the crazy thing is, as well, it's a song that I kind of expected to hear on the Matrix soundtrack, and it's not. You know, for all the things that's on the Matrix soundtrack, if you listen to it, there's a lot of metal bands on there. You know, mostly new metal, but a lot of electronic and dance and stuff as well. And you just think those songs, that album, this song was perfect for that film. But no, you know, maybe they decided it were enough stuff already. You never know.
Yeah. This is one of the first songs I went back to after checking out like Genexus, I think. I just remember specifically this song I listened to a couple of times. But I think it was before I went to the whole album. I was like, oh, just curious. And, you know, it's the first video that comes up, I think. That or Lynchpin. It's right up there. And, like, there's a music video to it. So I remember watching it with the video. And it was just the clean vocal bit. I was like, oh, it was, like, really different. Like, because it's not... He's still singing that kind of low voice and stuff. And I was like, it caught me off guard. I was like, what is this? Like, it's very different. Sort of approach. Like... It's not something I expected from a song that old in a way, like to switch it up like that.
Yeah, it's a nice mix. I think the harsh vocals aren't too harsh. You know, there's as you say, there's somewhere between a growl and
on this song though, I feel like they are maybe toned down a little bit because if you compare them to like I don't know Self Bias Resistor or like Demanufacture, like it's heavy. But it's like there's an element of like they're quite clear, aren't they? Still, it doesn't feel quite as aggressive as those songs, probably intentionally.
Yeah, and I think that's why people can sort of vibe with it, and I don't know if dance is the right word, but sort of move the body a bit, have a bit of a mosh. You know, it's definitely a song that even if you're not really into metal or Fear Factory, I've seen people sort of bob their heads to it when it's on, so it's got a vibe to it for sure. It's
One thing I think about this song, I do think this one would be enhanced with some synths in there, especially behind the clean parts. I did a little remix myself at one point. Not that I think mine's like better than the original or anything, but I think as a proof of concept, I think just some little touches in there might have actually been pretty good. Maybe they didn't want to because, if this was going to be the hit song, it wasn't that normal, was it, to have like this electronic element like mixed in? Like that wasn't, they're coming off the back of like grunge and stuff, right? Still at that point, so it would be quite detached, I think, from what else was going on at the time. So that might be the reasoning why. But I just feel like just a simple, how it's done in a lot of obsolete songs. You've just got something that's following the vocal melody. That's what I kind of put in the remix I did. I think something like that would have gone a long way just to really enhance it. Not that I think like, oh, it's absolutely needed, but I just think, oh, it'd be interesting if that was in there. Might just add a bit more replay value as well. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes me think of again, not to unduly bring up the T album, but there was a remix of one of the title track.
Oh, yeah, it's just like that. That's the same kind of thing. It just gives it a bit more flavour, doesn't it?
If that was the way that song was released, it would have been better.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that could have been the case with Replica, maybe, but at the same time, I think it was intentional to have it more bare bones because you look at everything that was releasing around that time, that's what it was, and like, from a trying to gain popularity perspective, I kind of get it. Like, I feel like if you shoved a synth in there, it might just be that one extra element that makes it a little bit harder to get on board with, if that makes sense. Because you've already got, like I said, the vocal style change kind of threw me off at first when I was like, oh. So if you did that and the keyboard, it might be a bit like overwhelming on a first listen. You're like, this is quite new, like at the time. So maybe it was a decision in that way. I'm not sure.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from. If you think of Fuel Injected Suicide Machine, they do that with the choruses, and it works really, really well, especially on the outro where it's like dun 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 dun, you know, and in the chorus itself, you can hear it in the background like woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, just think of like Securitron. Like, imagine that song without Simpson. It would be nothing the same. Be nothing the same without it. So, but that song's more hinged on it than what I'm talking about here. But I just feel like, yeah, something, one extra element in there might have enhanced it a bit. But it's this is probably only something I thought about after listening to it 1,000 times, because I think that's my only thing, is that I've just heard this song a bit too many times. I don't skip it or anything, but I'm a bit like, oh yeah, heard this one.
It's what I could put on repeat and just go about my day, but at the same time,
I don't think I could do that. I feel like, I feel like I just kind of want to get my one listen and then sort of move on. Like, not that I think it's bad. I just feel like, yeah, maybe it's because I listened to it a lot back in the day. It comes on in clubs and stuff. I don't know. I just feel like I've heard this one a lot more than the others for some reason.
I mean, I'm a strange sort of person in general. I can listen to the same song again and again and again. You know, I don't burn out like that. I don't know whether it's like a symptom of ADHD or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I was always suspected of had it, but I can just go and go and go and go and go. Honestly, like literally, I could literally hit play on Soul of a New Machine, go right the way through the entire log. All right, there's going to be certain songs that I won't enjoy very much. But you know, for the vast majority, I can just leave it go right throughout the entire Fear Factory catalog.
Yeah.
Like certain songs I can just loop them. Linchpin is another one I can just loop it. Purity on Aggression Continuum, Depraved Mind Murderer, Power Shifter. You know, every song has that one song that I could literally just have on repeat 24/7 and not get bored. But I think the problem that you kind of run into is commercialism. Then, isn't it? You don't want to be known for the rest of your existence for Replica. You can't deny it's a successful song, and it is a really, really good song. It's very accessible. It's very groovy. I don't know many people who don't like it, who are into, you know, metal and things like that. However, you know, I saw a video not too long back of James Hetfield playing Enter Sandman live, recent gig, and he had his back facing the crowd, and someone had filmed him from the side, and you can literally see him mouthing to himself, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm sick of it. Oh, wow. Yeah, literally. And it's like, but when you've been playing that same song for 40 years.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
I get it. You have a whole catalogue. And that's the thing that worries me sometimes. It's like some of these wonderful Fear Factory songs, like, because there's such a wealth and breadth in that portfolio, there's some great songs that are just going to get sort of pushed into the background.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when the day comes that Fear Factory decide to call time on making new music, because that will happen one day, and maybe they just decide to start touring, a bit like Godsmack are at the moment. You know, they're just going to play, for the most part, probably the big songs, and you know for a fact that Replica will be one of them.
You know, I've given this some thought, and I'm like, I've realised what needs to happen is Dino needs to just play all the groove songs, like the easier ones. And I'm like, he could probably go another 10 years if he just starts doing like Lynchpin, Descent, you know, anything that is like just those more like groovy songs. I'm like, mate, I'd love that rather than nothing. I think, you know, I mean, some bands just wouldn't do that, right? Like, but it depends what you've got in your catalogue. But I genuinely believe they've got enough songs like that to build a whole set list out of. And like, if that keeps you going on touring for another 10 years, I think the fans would love that. Like,
oh, absolutely. I mean, I like Dog Day Sunrise. I think it's a great song, and yet, you know, it's not one often played. Yeah. There's so many songs that they don't. I think, was there not one that they played because we saw them in Bristol together, didn't we? And then did they not go to a festival, or am I thinking Brighton? They played the gig, and then they went to the festival not long afterwards, and they played a song at the festival that they don't play very often, and it's bugging me now. Because I kept thinking to myself, oh my god,
I think they did Bloodstock, or maybe it was Download, but I think it was Bloodstock. And they did it either the day before or the day after Brighton. I can't remember which way round it was now.
It was Brighton, and I'm trying to think of the song, but like you say, it's not one they play very often, and you're like, oh my god, I'd have loved to heard that live. You know, quite fortunate in a way that I've seen them play through the entirety of...
I wonder if it was something like Damaged or something like that, I don't know.
Damage format. Yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know what it was, but yeah, it can be annoying, but you get what you're given, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Replica is the epitome, probably, of what Fear Factory have become at the point of this album. It's got a little bit of everything. It's accessible. You know, if you're a guitarist or a musician yourself, it's something that's really fun to play. It's really fun to listen to. It's great live because everyone gets that energy. You know, it's... I'd like to say it's a bit of a people pleaser, but without sounding disrespectful, because it is a song that people love and it's a great song.
Yeah, I think, like, if you're a more, like, casual fan and you went to a show, like, you would probably be disappointed if they didn't play it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if they played... Like I said earlier, they're just, like, well into the 90s stuff, and then they kind of dropped off, so they're expecting, like, they're expecting that. They're expecting Shock or Edge Crusher or whatever it might be. So I guess it's that sort of thing. But, like, when you're like us and we're, like, deep into it, like, we would probably sooner go to a show full of, like, deep cuts, but it's just not, like, you got to try and please everyone, haven't you? So that's just how it is.
It's when you stood on the front row and Dino's like, there's 3 songs left, and you go, no, 4, and fine, 4. we'll throw one in there for you. But even then, one more is just not enough. You know, you're like, I want more. And
you're on such an adrenaline high, right?
Oh, it's just one of those songs, isn't it? And I suppose that kind of neatly brings us on to New Breed in a way, because I mean that song is like a manifesto, isn't it? You know, I mean it inspired the Facebook group, the New Breeders. Obviously, there were people that used to say, you know, we're part of the New Breeders and stuff like that. I mean, this song is iconic as many.
This song really does stand out from the others because it's just very different. Like the first, it's the most electronic, isn't it? Really, like I'd say on the whole album, it's the most that Reese is just like. It's like Dino or someone had said to him, like, just go nuts. Go nuts. Don't hold back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The riffs on this are just absolutely tight. And the double kick, again, perfect. It's like an assembly line. It's just cold and precise, and, you know, it's unstoppable.
It definitely, like I was saying, though, I definitely think, like, they let Reese, like, off the fucking leash on this song. They were like, just here's the song, do whatever you want on it, and he just made it awesome. Like, I think it was needed to have a song on the album where it just goes nuts on the electronic side, because like you can almost hear on the other songs he's not implementing so much that it's taking over. Whereas this song, I feel like it does take over a little bit, but in the best way possible. And it just works, and it's a short song compared to the others, so it's just like it sticks out massively. This song, it almost like after Replica, it's a bit of like, whoa, what's going on now? Like it really takes you on a completely, you know, you've gone from a song that's a bit more bare bones with no electronic elements to suddenly that. It's like shit.
You got the whole
the new breed. It's just the vocals are nuts, like.
Exactly, it's easy to get into. It's definitely almost militaristic. You know, it's and you can easily.
I've always felt that this song is one of their most like punky songs, because I wouldn't say there's a lot of Fear Factory that has like a punk feel to it at all. But this song does stick out to me. Like, we are the new breed. Like, it's just kind of like this chanting, isn't it? Like.
I suppose it's got that sort of Sex Pistols vibe, you know, never mind the bollocks kind of.
Yeah, and then there's like the gang vocal bit, it's like dun 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 dun, you break, like they're all like shout, like a little bit of like thrash and stuff, but obviously thrash came from partly from punk as well, so it's almost like, I guess it's like a secondary influence kind of thing. I don't know, yeah, it reminds me of all that thrash and punk and crossover. It reminds me a little bit of that, because even the riff in it, like dun 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 dun, dun, it's a little bit thrashy.
It's bouncy. I think it's quite a bouncy riff. One that you can definitely get a bit of a headbang going to.
You know what I really like as well? That like siren sound in the background, like it's like droning through there. It's just like it just feels like shit's hit the fan again. Like
it almost feels like a warning as well. Like Meshuggah have it with. They have a song called "Break Those Bones That Sinews Give It Motion," and at the beginning they're doing like a tapping to make almost like a warning sound. And this is the same sort of thing. It's it's dangerous. Is that you start getting vibes of like, oh Christ, do let the machine out.
yeah. This is like, what you were saying, the end of like Zero Signal. This is like very much the opposite again. It feels like something's been like revived. It's like we're fucking on it again now.
Yeah.
It's almost like the album's almost like human emotions, isn't it? Because you just have such high highs, low lows. You feel really motivated. You feel depressed and feel like that's the end. But then like something happens again, and you're like adrenaline's going. This song is just like adrenaline, actually. I think that's good.
And the next generation's always got to be better than the last one, kind of thing.
Yeah, like generally speaking, like there's usually a trend that way, isn't there? No, I don't know if I have much more to say. Really, it's just a sick song.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say that hasn't already been said in a nutshell. It's another great one to hear live. It's been a song that's been influential in different ways. Like you say, it's inspired the Facebook group, the people, the old school fans that would refer to themselves as new breeders and stuff like that. It's a great song. It kind of makes me think of like...
It sounds as fresh as it did then as it does today, I bet.
As it does
Not
today,
that I was around then to listen to it, but it just sounds super modern to me still, like just all that electronic stuff going on. It's like, what?
I mean, I must remember, do you know the first time I listened through Demanufacture, I was playing through a game as well. Doom.
Oh yeah.
I was playing Final Doom on PlayStation 1, right? And the music from the album just went with it so much. But New Breed used to make me think like, when you got to a certain point in the game, the enemies not just used to get harder, but they used to bring in like more difficult enemies to fight because they had different attacks. You had to approach situations differently, all that kind of stuff. And that made me think of New Breed because it was like, you thought those guys were difficult.
Yeah, it almost
about
feels
to show
like,
you something.
Yeah, it almost feels like you've got to this like next level and like shit's just hitting the fan, the sirens going off.
Yeah,
it does feel. It's hard. I think I know what you're trying to say.
It's like all those sort of films where they think they've beaten the big bad guy and they're like, yeah, who else is out there? Bring it on. And then they turn around and go, oh dear.
It's funny, isn't it? 'Cause
bigger.
I was saying last episode, pretty much how I got into the band was finding it through, it was like the Doom soundtrack. Then that guy was like, oh, you need to listen to Fear Factory. So it just shows you like their music works well with those kind of action-packed games.
Well, this was the thing that made it interesting because like the original Doom had sort of like, I'm not sure rip-off songs are the right thing to say, but they were definitely heavily inspired by actual songs. Obviously the main one everyone knows is very similar to Master of the Puppets, in it.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone. But then the PlayStation 1 soundtrack and the PlayStation 1 version of Doom was very different. It had this ethereal ambient soundtrack that really turned it into a horror. It was quite scary to play it as a kid. I ended up playing it with cheats because, number one, I was a kid, and number two, I just didn't have the fortitude to play that game when it was difficult. It was hard, but listening to the music that it came with made it like a sort of horror survival experience. kicking that metal back in made it more of like a right, let's go and fucking kill some aliens, whatever else. It changed the entire feel of it. I think I must have listened to the album so many times whilst playing that. Jeez, I mean, there's not many songs I can think of. I remember listening to Hybrid Theory whilst I was reading the first Harry Potter books, because that was the thing at the time. But no, Fear Factory and Doom was
overload. Harry Potter.
Mate, that was some weekends, mate. Honestly, yeah, brilliant.
MTV.
Oh my God, Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah,
I could only imagine them. I wonder if they ever did a music video, because they did do that with Beavis and Butthead, didn't they? I don't know if you've seen much of it, but they kind of talk over music videos sometimes.
I remember they poked fun at like Morbid Angel and Death and some other bands, like, and it actually just made the album sales go up. Like that the song they were poking at from Morbid Angel was like their third album, and that ended up being the best-selling death metal album of all time.
Oh,
and
I
think partly to do with the show, not entirely. But I'm like, that's just like, it's wild that it was basically in the like death metal was like in the mainstream. I'm like, what is this world? Like, I can't imagine that like being a thing. It's so weird to think about. Yeah. Anyway, on to next song, Dog Day Sunrise, right?
T-shirt, half a T-shirt.
Yeah. No, I always think this song was an interesting choice, like plonk in a cover, like right in the middle. Not that I've not seen that done with some other bands, but it was just like the choice of song and stuff. I was just like, oh, this is like, it's just an interesting thing to do, I guess. Like,
I'd like to know what it was that made them pick this song specifically.
You know what? I found something out like just today actually, that one of the members of the original band, is it called, what were they called? Head of David?
Head of David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the members was actually a Godflesh member as well, which I know they were a huge fan of Godflesh. I can't say I know much about both of these bands, but there's obviously a connection there. So I'm wondering if that's how they found out about this band, because like it seems like quite an unknown sort of band, right?
Yeah, well, they were a British band as well, with Head of David, which shocked me because with metal bands that I could name from Britain in that.
Well, the thing is that
in the early 90s, there wasn't many.
The original song is almost like, is this rock, is this metal? But that main riff does go bloody hard. But even the original, for an 80s song, I'm like, that riff was quite like ahead of its time in a way. Like dun 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 dun.
Well, yeah. I like how the Fear Factory version has a bit like chorus on it, a bit of reverb, and it kind of echoes and resonates that down 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 down.
I think it's the production, but like I think Burton definitely made the song his own, like changed it up quite a lot with that vocal style, like the deep sort of vocals.
It reminds me of a film I saw years ago, and I can't think of what it was called, and it's absolutely going to do my head in. It wasn't From Dusk Till Dawn, but it was like almost like a red desert setting, like very American sort of Western. But they were miners in this. It was strange. It were almost like old America meets new America. So when they were in the town, the characters, it were like red brick buildings with biker bars and multiple floor apartment buildings and stuff like that. But then just a short drive out were these mines in the desert, and I just remember this yellow sort of sun that was bleeding through a blood red sky, and oh my God, this song really went with it. And for the love of me money, I've no idea what bloody film it were. And I wish I could find out, because it always reminded me of it. But it's very. It's a song you can get stuck in.
It's quite mesmerizing in a way. Like sometimes I'm like, it's starting up, and I'm a bit like, oh, I don't know, I've heard this one a lot as well. But then it gets going, and I'm sort of like, actually, I'm quite enjoying this now.
Yeah. You get dragged into that.
My favorite song on the album or anything, but I do like, it's one of those where I'm like, oh, how much do I actually like it? But then it comes on, I start really enjoying it again. So I don't know.
It's a slow burn, isn't it? You know,
Yeah, I
I mean,
suppose. Yeah.
it's crazy in a way because Head of David disbanded in, I think it was 1991,
Yeah.
something like that. I remember reading about it. I think they were only active for about 4 years, something like that, but they never really found any mainstream success, which unfortunately was the story of a lot of British metal bands. You know, there wasn't the same audience as there was, and if your name wasn't Black Sabbath or Iron Maiden, you know, people didn't really want to know. Even bands like Saxon and Venom and stuff like that, Kronos, they never really, you know, I say those to some people and they're like, who? You're like, exactly, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was like 89, 1991, and then it got covered in 95. So it's not a very big time gap either. You know, normally when you see these cover songs, like I think Gary Newman's Cars. I mean, what were that? Was it early 80s, late 70s? Then it's
Late
covered
70s,
on.
I think. Yeah, right. 79 maybe.
Yeah, and then that's covered on Obsolete, wasn't it? Was it Obsolete
Yeah.
that Cars was on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, there's quite a time difference there, but really, it wasn't that old a song. If anything, I kind of feel like Fear Factory perfected it, because if you listen to the original, the guitars are there with a da 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 da, and the vocals are kind of there, but it feels very hollow to listen to.
The production is really quite raw, isn't it? On that other version, it's quite flat. But like you said, the riff is there and the melody's there. It was just like, because I think if that original version had the production that like they had, like the budget to put into that, it probably maybe they would have second guessed covering that in a way, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think like that's what really brought it to life, was having that really good sound to it. It needed that, I think.
That's it, and it's such a different song as well. I mean, it's one of the few that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's mostly, if not entirely, clean vocals.
No, it's entirely, yeah.
Yeah, and that chorus, you can get stuck in that dog day sunrise.
Yeah,
dog
I think it's quite hypnotizing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, with the sort of drone on the guitars and that reverb and chorus with the down da down da 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 down, it just goes perfectly. And then before you know it, you're jumping back in like my Valentine has shining eyes.
Yeah. I think it's like it was a good song for Burton to like really show off those clean vocals like properly for a whole song. It's the first song in their career where it was all clean, I guess. Like that, or well, actually saying that, maybe it would have been a therapy a therapy for pain, but I don't know which song was written first. Obviously, this one was technically written first because it was a cover, but I don't know what they decided to record first. I don't know. Either way, it was that or the other one, but yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like this I think the placement on the album is absolutely perfect. You needed something in the middle there to sort of separate all the heavy songs, like, you know, put something a bit more melodic, a bit more chill in the middle.
It is a strange placement at the same time, though, isn't it? Because it's like the middle.
It's strange, but it breaks up the album a little bit. Yes, you.
Well, that's it. I mean,
second half, yeah.
It works, but I mean, if you were planning an album of your own, and you said like, where do you want to put the cover songs? You normally say, you know, as bonus tracks at the end or something like that. But to stick it dead in the middle, it's like, it's kind of brave, actually.
That's the weird thing, because like I'm kind of like, part of me's like, I think it maybe should be a bonus track, but then if they took it out of the middle, then I feel like you've got too much heavy.
Put back in?
Yeah. So I feel like it was needed. But I think in an ideal world, maybe there would have been like a similar clean only song, but like an original song. But the thing is, I don't think they were ready to write a full song like that. I think that was why it wasn't until like Descent on Obsolete, which I think is just like absolutely perfection, that song. That's exactly what, we'll get to it next time, but I think that's what is needed, like something in the middle like that. But maybe on around Demanufacture, you'll remember they're coming off just making like the heaviest shit, like you know, borderline death metal stuff, and then, you know, you can't really go into writing like a ballad like that so quickly, really. So I mean, yeah, there's therapy for pain, but I'd say that's a very like final sort of feeling, that song, isn't it? You couldn't put a song like that in the middle.
No.
So maybe they just weren't quite ready to write like an original, and they really wanted to do that cover. I don't know, but I don't know. I think it works. I think it works.
It's interesting as well because, like you say, Head of David were particularly a big band, and looking at the back of the CD now, and bear in mind, as I said to you, sort of pre-broadcast, this is a promo version of the CD, as you can see there. And looking at the track listing on the back, it literally just says Dog Day Sunrise. I don't see anything that says anything. Hang on, there's a no. It just says all songs published by Roadblock Music Inc. Hate File Music, except Dog Day Sunrise, published by Longitude Music Co. Dying Art Limited, mute song. But it doesn't mention sort of like Head of David, nor does it say to the side of it like, cover or anything like that. So it kind of makes you think in the grand scheme of things. I wonder how many people knew at the time that it were a cover song.
Yeah.
I could have believed it was an original composition, not knowing that there was an original out there. And Head of David weren't a big band. They didn't. Not saying they were a bad band.
Now I'm thinking about it, I don't think I realised it was a cover for quite a long time.
No, I think it was only off the off chance that someone said it to me in passing conversation years ago, and I'm talking Archetype era, that someone said to me in high school, like, "Oh, it's a cover song," and I'm like,
"You know what? Maybe I found out from you."
Really?
Like you told me in the queue once, and you're like, "Oh, have you heard the original?" And I was like, "What do you mean the original?"
Yeah,
that sounds sort of familiar now. Now I think about it. So yeah, maybe I mean, I always felt like, oh, the song stands out quite a bit to their other stuff, but maybe that was why. Yeah, this is a cover.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah. Well, it's not my favorite. It's probably like. Realistically, it probably is my least favourite song on the album, but I think it was necessary to have something clean and melodic in the middle there to break it up. Just makes.
Well, it's interesting. We've not come across my least favourite as of yet.
Okay.
So I guess we can agree to disagree.
Is it the one that's going to piss everyone off?
I don't know. Let's see, shall we? Let's see.
Okay.
But I mean, if you think we've covered everything on Dog Day Sunrise there, I think that ties us nicely into Body Hammer. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that is like, I mean, it's probably one of the most iconic riffs from the album. Probably is the most, apart from Replica, I guess.
It is absolutely uncompromising, and like the best way I can describe the drums and the riffs and the rhythm is jackhammer. Like that idea of dum, ding, dum, ding, like Slipknot hitting the metal barrels. It's like, oh.
It's the anvil, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and the hammer. Oh my god, it is. Yeah,
it's one of those.
I don't think they could have picked a better name.
The riff goes for quite a while, doesn't it, before the drums and bass comes
in. And then back into the.
It's another one of those. This could be a Doom song.
Yeah.
Picture it. Yeah.
It is. It's a song you can groove to. Definitely. It's one that, again, even if you're not a Fear Factory fan, you can see people bobbing their head like, oh, this is a vibe. This is,
It's one of those, like, everyone hears that riff at the start. You're not going to be. Everyone's going to be doing that. Not a full-on headbang. It's one of those, isn't it?
No, but you at least get a proper little groove because you're like, oh, I feel it, and I'm.
It's one of those riffs. It's one of those riffs where I was like, how has this not like been written before? Because it's quite a simple riff.
The thing is, it kind of reminds me of a song. Well, it's funny you say that. It reminds me of a song from Digimortal, but for the love of my money, I can't think of which song it is offhand. I'd have to, because I've been listening to Demanufacture so much this past week or so in preparation for this video.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the Digimortal episode, I'll probably have reminded myself, and I'll be like, oh, remember what I said about Body Hammer? Yeah. This song.
One thing I picked up on this song, like almost straight away, was like, I always found the vocal melody very odd. Like, it's quite like, it's a weird pattern, isn't it? Like, as of now, I am a tool. Like, it's just like everything about that delivery is interesting to me. It always sticks out amongst the whole catalogue. Really, it's quite different.
I kind of like the reverb on that as well, because it does kind of sound like he's shouting from the bottom of an empty room.
Yeah.
You know, in those parts, and it gives it like a bit of depth.
Yeah.
Which I quite like.
I'm trying to find the lyrics of the bit that I really like, where it's kind of like, oh, that bit's good in there. It's like, I open wide my bloodshot eyes. That's not the part I was thinking about, but yeah, that bit where it's like pound, drive, swing, strike. Like he just it's like one word delivery.
Yeah.
Break it down.
There's only so many times you can say how tight the guitars are and the picking and the drums and everything and just how they go together. But again, it's another example of sort of simplistic but incredibly effective. It gets stuck in your head, and you know, like you say, even if you're not really a Fear Factory fan, you can still be like, I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know why it's another one of those songs where I'm not feeling extremely hyped, and I know it's coming, but when it gets on, I'm like, yeah, come on. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, it's quite. Now I think about it, I feel like the BPM's a bit lower on this song, a lower tempo kind of song. It's more that.
I think Zero Signal's probably the biggest, or the fastest, should we say, with the highest BPM, from what I remember reading anyway.
It'd probably be the title track, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I think Zero Signal is slightly faster.
Yeah, actually, Zero Signal is quite fast. You're right. Yeah,
but not throughout the whole song, because, like you say, the second half of that is lower tempo, and it's almost like you've been driving at 150 miles an hour, and instead of just braking, you just stop accelerating and let it gradually slow down. Whereas Body Hammer is just that constant grind, isn't it? It's like
with the anvil,
fucking Elliot.
It's just great.
It's like a slog. It's like a long day at work, or a bus ride that you can't be arsed with. You just I don't know.
You know what I think? An underrated part of it is under those clean bits, the keyboards have got this sort of I don't know if you'd call it like a flanger kind of effect. Like it's kind of like, I don't know if it's panning. I don't think it's panning, but it's kind of like got this really interesting effect on it. And it's not something I picked up on straight away, but listening more, I'm like, oh, I really like the keyboards in that.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's effective use of the synths and stuff, isn't it? It's just it's subtle, but I think it needs to be on this song.
Yeah. When you listen to it next, focus really focus on that effect. I think it sounds so cool. It's almost like something they started doing more on future albums. It was like the start of that kind of thing.
Like you say, it gives you the vibe of what was the song you mentioned from Mechanized? It's only like a minute long. Controlled Demolition.
Yeah. That's got a similar riff at the start. Not exactly the same, but
it's just a killer riff, isn't it? You know, you can vibe to it. That's the only thing I can say.
Yeah. That's that one, and then Flashpoint next. I'm gonna say Flashpoint. I think is the most underrated song on the album. I don't hear anyone talking about it. I like it.
I'm gonna be the other way around. Yeah. This for me, as much as I think, and again, controversial opinion, as much as I think Piss Christ is overhyped, I don't vibe with this one.
No,
and it's not that it's a bad song. It's just, I think it's just very, very similar in some aspects to the other songs on the album. It doesn't take many sort of risks, or it doesn't differentiate itself too much. You know, which again is not a bad thing, because it's staying true to that formula. It's staying consistent to that sound. But for me, it's like I would have liked something different here. Yeah. And then if we'd have come into it, I might have felt differently about it. But it's one that, and I can play it through in my head. I can hear the song, you know, I can sort of get the lyrics for the most part. And, you know, if it comes on, I'm not going to skip it. But at the same time, I'm not going to go out my way to find it as the first thing I listen to, you know?
it's a weird one because although I think it's underrated, I almost get why people don't necessarily like it as much. Like, I don't know. There's just something I've always really liked about it. Like, I like the parts where the guitars cut out completely, and there's like these like weird synthy bits. It's like boom, boom. Like, I can't do the sound, but I was like, there's some sort of weird atmosphere on this song. My favorite part is definitely towards the end though, where it's like, I can't really sing it, but like where that just like the delivery on the clean vocal bit at the end is quite weird, and I just like it. But yeah, I never hear anyone talk about the song, but maybe that's because most people don't really like it. I don't know.
I just feel indifferent towards it. I think it's not a song that I dislike, but it's not a song that I'm going to go out my way to listen to, you know, pretty much as soon as we get it down. Like if I was to order the songs from the ones I personally like the most through to the ones I like the least, this would probably be last. And it's not to insult the song, you know. Like I say, it's more of the same, but in a good way. You know, it's not
to be fair,
something so different.
It would still be on the lower end of my list. It wouldn't be like near the top or anything.
No.
But yeah. But no, cool. I'm glad we like finally disagreed on. So I feel like we're just like, I feel like usually we're just full on glazers. So
I know, and we were polite about it. So imagine that.
Yeah. Now come on.
Yeah. Next time I see you at a gig, what did you say about Flashpoint?
Yeah. No, I mean, to be fair, it's a short song. It doesn't add loads to the album. Like, I feel like, you know, if you took it out, would it harm the album completely? No, not really.
No. I think it would have gone down the same.
Yeah, I'm glad it's there, though. I enjoy it, but I kind of think it doesn't. It's not adding loads to the album. It's not like a main song, if you know what I mean.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but without added bonus tracks and things like that, there are 11 songs on the album. So if you took it out, it'd still be a nice 10-song album.
Yeah,
and I'd still listen to it
through.
It's
quite a long album, isn't it? But I guess some of that is from the ambient bit from the last track.
Yeah, Therapy for Pain. I was just looking for a total runtime.
Either way, it's over 40 minutes. It's like, probably around 50, 45, 50 or something.
It's an experience, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, next song's HK. And see, I'm going to do my hot take now and say I think this is one of the overrated tracks.
I don't disagree with you. Not that I feel like I'm compelled to agree, but I do think a lot of people big it up. But I don't think it hits like Zero Signal.
No,
I don't think it hits like the Manufacturer or Replica or you know, even Dog Day Sunrise. I hate to say it, you know, because I know that is one that some people feel differently about. I think Flashpoint and HK are probably two songs where it kind of dips down a little bit, and then coming back into Piss Christ into A Therapy for Pain is really nice. I think it's quite a nice. And maybe it needed a bit of a lull, or maybe it was difficult to place them in different places. But yeah, there's not really a great deal.
It's got some really good riffs at the start and stuff. I honestly think part of its downfall is being a bit too long with the whole "I am a criminal." Like, have you seen how many times that like this is probably the only song where, you know, I say about repetition. This is probably the only song where I'm like, that's a bit too much of that.
Yeah, I think you're not wrong. Does he say it like something like 16 times?
You know, I did the maths once on when you know, because it was like the Manufacturer World Tour. I was counting how many tour dates, and then I times it by how many times that sentence comes up, and I was like, "Oh, Milo's going to say this like 1,000 times."
So many times.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy, like how many times it comes up. But you know, you're getting your point across. You're a criminal. I get it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like 16. I'm just having a quick gander over the lyrics now. You've got yep. So there's 4 there, sort of mid-song, and then 4, 4, 4. Yeah. I mean, I get what they were going for. To me, this is a song that was very much Terminator inspired, but again, it very much relates to, I think, probably what was going on in California at that time.
Oh yeah.
Listening to the lyrics and things like that, sort of like the oppression, the gun control, it very much felt like, right, the law is here to sort this situation out, and you will comply, or you will die.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
But I think maybe it's difficult for us, you know, and I sort of touched upon this earlier, but I don't think I sort of explained it very well. You know, we didn't live through these events. I can't even think of the last time that there was something really that bad in this country that every single town and city was up in arms. I mean, yeah, there's been some things in recent years. You know, there's been there was the stuff that happened in Leeds, but again, that was specific to Leeds with the social care thing. There was the thing that happened in Southport. You know, there were quite a sort of countrywide outrage, but nothing like what we saw there. And maybe that's because the cultures are different. You know, we don't really have guns, so you don't tend to have that kind of, you know, well, every man for himself, and it's a lot more dangerous because everyone can kill a person at the click of a button. You know, maybe it's that I haven't been able to experience being in that situation, that fear, you know, the uncertainty and just that struggle of getting through the day without, you know, hearing that one of your loved ones has died, or there's been a fire, someone's been attacked near you, someone's been robbed, something like that. You know, if you've not experienced that, it can be difficult to relate to.
Yeah, I do appreciate the sample at the start of the song, like with the like radio chatter kind of thing. Like, I'm assuming that's real. It sounds very real, like that it's been sampled from something. Like,
do you know? I've never thought too much about that.
No, I've always just assumed like it does sound very real, so I was like, oh yeah, they've just sampled that from news or something. But yeah, like it's just crazy. Like everyone's got a gun. Like, yeah, like no thanks.
It's crazy, isn't it? You know, you kill or be killed, but that's exactly it. You know, when you listen to the or when you read through the lyrics, and listen to it in context, I feel maybe with those last two songs, there's things here that we're kind of missing. You know, like I remember when we were talking about Scapegoat on Soul of a New Machine. We were talking about how like a lot of the inspiration from that song came from a time that Dino was wrongly detained or arrested. You know, it's like it's easier to relate to that, to think about that, than sort of what was going on in LA at that time.
Only him and who was around then can really know what that felt like and stuff. So I think I listened to this in a podcast or interview the other day, and someone asked him like what songs hold like extra meaning to you, and he said that like that was one of them. And I'm like, totally get that. Like Burns there writing the lyrics about it, like pretty much as it unfolds before him. So there's a very like personal element there, and it was like you said, you had to be there, really.
Well, that's it. And you hear quite often about sort of racist or racial, what's the word, bias within the police in America. And again, that might just be a stereotype that the rest of the world hears outwards looking in, because that's all the media tell us. I don't know. You know, I don't want to make it sound like I don't want to make it sound like I'm getting into that realm of politics or attacking Americans. But, you know, for someone who's a bit different to be detained by the police and having seen the way that people have been treated by the police, you know, it must have been a bloody awful experience one way or another. But I think most people can relate to that a little bit more, because everyone, to a certain extent, I'd like to think, is relatively afraid of being arrested wrongfully, you know, and detained, or, you know, God knows how much worse it can go if they think you've got a gun, or if they think that you're a threat or something like that. You never know how quickly a situation could go south. So maybe that's the context I'm lacking on that song a little bit, to really appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, this, like you said, now I think about it more, this one's very much like about what was going on around them. So, one thing I do like in this song is a couple of moments, like, I don't know why I really like that part when it's like, I've become what they detest, a delinquent survivalist. Without fear and no regrets, they fucking say. It's just the delivery of, they fucking say.
Say.
Yeah, I love that bit. And then obviously there's that everyone loves that bit, and it's like the machine is now alive. That's the heavy as fuck.
I mean, it's like I say, it's not a bad song, but I think there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that give it, kind of like the status of replica or zero signal, and I'm just not quite sure it is that. And again, maybe we're missing that context. Maybe that's why we don't feel the same way as certain other people who are a lot closer to the subject to the song. But
honestly, I feel like it's quite, for me, it feels quite simple. That I feel like it just drags on a bit, like with the "I am a criminal" bit. Like it genuinely, it's just so many times, and I'm like, yeah, I think it worked well earlier in like the end of like Self-Biased Resist, the end of Zero Signal. But in this case, I just felt like it was like one too many in a way. I feel like if it was a tighter song, that might have worked a bit better.
Yeah, and I think, interestingly, maybe if we're okay to move on to Piss Christ, thinking of that,
of course.
It's a stark contrast to the end of that song, because that song again has got quite a drawn out with that "Where is your savior now?" That for me, the ending coming in from that, that face down, arms out, nailed to the cross of doubt, that's a really powerful ending for me, and I like that. The way it's drawn out in that respect, I can get behind, because it goes well with the song. But yeah, I think for me, this is probably the most overhyped song on the album. It's not a bad song by any stretch of the imagination. I do enjoy it, but some people talk about it like it's Power Shifter, a linchpin, one of the big songs that most non-Fear Factory but metal listeners would know of, and I'm like, really? I'm not so sure. We can agree to disagree.
I really like it, but I don't know if I'd put it. Probably wouldn't actually put it in my like top 20.
No,
I'd put it probably just after that. So I'd have to think about it, but on the album, I'll just say it's in my top 5. So I do really like it, but I wouldn't go as far to say it's underrated, because I do hear a lot of people talking about it. At least like in the fan groups and stuff, I hear a lot of people saying like Piss Christ, and they even put it in the set for a while when it wasn't even the tour. So like the band knows it's quite,
don't get me wrong, it's a good one to listen to live. I enjoy it live, especially with that ending, because everyone joins in with that "Where is your savior now?"
It's a song that's got a very big payoff. You kind of have to earn it, because only it takes a while to get to that first little chorus bit, and that's really short. Then it's back into like the harsh vocal bit, and then you get the huge payoff at the end with that amazing bit. So it's kind of, structure-wise, it's quite different. Like you compare it to like Zero Signal, like you're in that chorus like very quickly, and then it's back and forth. Whereas this is more of like you get teased, and then big payoff at the end. So the structure is quite unconventional. It reminds me a bit like Depraved Mind Murder, because that's similar, isn't it? Where it's like a big chorus at the end and stuff.
Well, this is what I was going to say. It's that last big song before the sort of emotional ending, because we'll talk about A Therapy for Pain in a second, but it seems to be like a running trend as you go forwards. Perfect examples has been like how Resurrection is at the end of the album, Timelessness then follows, how you've got Disassemble before Enhanced Reality, and religion is flawed because man is flawed. You've got the same with Battle for Utopia before going into Expiration Date and things like that. So it's like a last big song before going into that sort of that downer, maybe not downer, but that emotional, like we're winding down a bit now. We're going to add some closure and finality to this record. It just leaves me a little bit lacking that the last third of the song I really, really enjoy, but the first 2/3 don't build me up for it enough. I'm more excited for when that ending kicks in than the rest of the song, if that makes sense. And that's the only reason why I feel it's a bit overhyped.
I do feel the same way, but I try and look at it as like it's all this like big build up for that, and it's like, oh, I've got to earn it. I've got to earn it.
I can't do it.
But it's the way I think about it. But I do really like the bits where it's like, so we lie. I don't know, it just gets me going. Really like that. And yeah, when those clean bits come in, I just love the keys that go with it. Almost uplifting in a weird way. But yeah.
I mean, it's great when they play it live.
Sorry?
It's great when they play it live. I must admit, I think I prefer listening to it live with an audience and with the band than I do as a song by itself on the album, if that makes sense. I think listening to songs live can really do that for people as well. You know, I know a lot of people who weren't really sort of big Fear Factory fans, and then I've said, you know, come to a gig or something like that, and they've gone and listened to them. Like my missus, for example, you know, she really likes them now. All of a sudden, she's kind of turned a corner. You know, I see her wearing like a Shock T-shirt that I've never seen in my life, and I'm like, where did she get that from? Like Vinted. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, that's nice. I know, yeah, you're surprising me now, but you're not going to find me in a Ghost T-shirt. Don't even get your hopes up.
Yeah.
No,
I don't have much more to say about the song, but yeah, probably we disagree quite a bit on that one. But like, I do kind of get what you mean about people like really go at it. I think people act like it's this really underrated song where a lot of people actually do like really like it. So I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, in one respect, it is pretty ballsy because it is. I won't say like an anti-Christian song per se, but it is very much kind of a skeptical, savior song, you know. And you could, I suppose, relate that to Jesus Christ and Christianity and stuff like that. And I remember, you know, to say that Demanufacture is 1995. Joss Whedon were writing the script for Alien Resurrection about the same time. And a lot of the things he wanted to do, like to really get into the nitty gritty of dark clothing experiments and stuff, he'd bring these scripts to the head of Fox, and they'd be like, "We can't do it, mate. If you upset the Christian fan base, we're going to lose a lot of money." You know, so it is risky in that respect, because I know there is, you know, there's a big Christian faith. There's nothing wrong with that, but some people don't react so nicely when you maybe not criticize, but make a statement about the religion that you don't agree with. You know, it's quite easy to upset people.
I think they would have run into a bigger problem if, say, like the Replica lyrics were more relating to this sort of thing. I reckon they could get a bit of stick for that, but because it's more of a, you know, it's buried in the album a little bit, I feel like they got away with it. Maybe.
And I mean, it raises a good point as well, because again, you know, if we go back to that idea of what it must have been like living in LA at that time, that everything went down, you know, it's like they needed a savior in a way, someone to maybe not necessarily just come and sort everything out, because it wasn't that simple, obviously. You know, it was quite a difficult, and I think it lasted for quite some time, didn't it? We're not talking a couple of weeks. I think there were trouble over the period of a couple of years in LA, something like that, you know, but a savior to that situation that could have saved lives. I think like 60 people died. Something like 2,000 people got severely injured, and you know that doesn't take into account property damage to businesses in theft and things like that. And just the fact that, you know, going to work every day, being fearful and stuff like that you don't know who's carrying what when you walk past that person on the street, that you know, them like you are probably thinking, what is this person like? Am I safe to walk past them, or is that a threat? You know, so that idea of like a sort of savior that never turns up, I get that. You know, in a lot of situations, people hold on to hope, don't they? You know, but I'm a very pessimistic person. I like to say, well, wish in one hand and shit in the other, and see which one fills up first. You know, because there's a physical aspect to these things, and then there's a spiritual one. And as much as I love to have faith and things like that, and I don't, you know, I've nothing against anyone who has faith, but I believe in what I can see and what I can do. And I think this song kind of gets that across. You know,
it does.
It's like if you're going to be praying for the Savior to come and sort this all out, well,
I think
praying.
I think Burton gets across his point like quite well in it. Like, and Yeah, I was thinking from like just like a singing perspective, I think it's one of the best performances from him, like on the whole album, like from a clean singing perspective. That ending, it's just I love the delivery of it. It's just quite unique.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, it's like he's come a long way, isn't he? From like because the clean vocals on Soul of a New Machine are like I really like them for what they are, but this just you feel like the confidence coming through now. Like he's obviously got a lot more confident with like the clean singing and stuff. So he was kind of like seeing where he could go with it, I guess. And yeah, last track, Therapy for Pain. I actually really like this song. It's been a bit of a it's taken quite a while for it to grow on me. It wasn't one that I really connected with like straight away. But the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, I just it's got like a really unique atmosphere, and it just I don't know. It's kind of doomy, isn't it? Like not like the game, but as in like the genre. Like it's much slower.
Yeah.
Really, really slow for them, and the original riffs were coming from the first album, Concrete, wasn't it? Well, the first supposed album. Like that main riff was from there, and they kind of reworked it with all the different vocal approach and keyboards and everything. So I think it was cool that they were like, oh, we can reuse that riff and turn it into a completely different song.
It's interesting that they did it in later years. Like I remember I had, I think it was a cameo from Burton one time, and I was saying within, we were talking about the Industrialist, or I asked him to speak about the Industrialist, and I said, how come it was that Enhanced Reality ended up on Genexus when realistically it was designed to end,
yes, it's obvious
the Industrialist.
To be on the Industrialist, yeah.
Yeah, because it goes back to that Live for Today or Fade Away thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like he said to me, he said like that song originally was so fucking heavy. He's like, it was a heavy song to end on. He said, but one day, just the inspiration hit like that, and it was like, yeah, we need to record this and quick because we've got these ideas and and it ended up being a very different song. And it's interesting that sometimes because I do kind of like the idea that every Fear Factory album, for the most part, I mean, you can discount a few, but has that sort of song that's almost like a bit of reflection. It's like a bit of contemplation. It's a bit of a thought to finish on. And A Therapy for Pain were definitely that. It made me think about a lot of things myself. Think about like my granddad last year. We lost my granddad to cancer. And just the things that he were using as like a crutch to get through it, like laughter and things like that. That and sort of family and things like that were far more important than medicine, because there's just certain things that just can't give you relief. So when you find yourself in that situation, therapy is, in a sense, one of your only options, isn't it? And it kind of got me thinking about that and the different aspects of it as well. It's a nice song to close on. I think it's got a good bit of closure to it. I don't think it needed to be heavy, I think that trying to think through the albums now. I think most albums have a song kind of like this.
Yeah. This was the first
within
album
there somewhere,
which basically started that whole thing. The only one I can't think that doesn't have one. Well, the thing is, like on, let's just go through it quickly. So on Obsolete, you've got Resurrection and Timelessness.
Yeah.
And then you've got
Digimortal does kind of.
Yeah, Digimortal has one. It has is it Memory Imprints? I get the names mixed up because you've got Dark Bodies and then the brackets. But I think it's Memory Imprints.
Yeah, but I wouldn't quite say it's in the same vein per se. I mean, I get what you're saying. But really? I think
I definitely think it's like a ballad kind of closing track. Was it called Memory Imprints? Never End. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
because I can hear it in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a heavy song. I'll give you that. It's not like I don't know, fucking Hurt Conveyor or something like that.
No, it's pretty. But, it's kind of like these other closing tracks, I think. And then you've got
Human Shields on Archetype.
Shields, fucking love that song. And then, see, on Transgression, it does exist, but like, because I've said this, I keep saying this, that I feel like they messed up the order of
The
songs,
order.
which we'll get to later on. But I would say it's an Echo of My Scream.
Echo of My Scream.
I
Do
would
you know what?
definitely say that should be the closing track. And then obviously Mechanized, you've got Final Exit.
Yep.
And then oh my god, we were just
Religion is flawed, is man is flawed, and into Enhanced Reality.
Enhanced Reality, and then you've got oh my god, you're testing me now. And Expiration Date.
Yeah.
Dungeon Nexus. But then yeah, I'd say Aggression Continuum. It doesn't really have that song. It has parts in a way, but it doesn't really have one of those songs.
Yeah, I mean that final song where
it's a bit of both. It's still quite heavy, isn't it? But it has sections that are kind of like, yeah, I don't know.
It does feel, it kind of feels like the end of a battle, doesn't it? And at the end, it comes into that quiet sort of. I don't think it's just synth. I think it is playing the guitar riff where it's like, da, na, na, da, na, na, na. And then it's got the whole
we'll get
fear is the mind killer.
Yeah, we'll get to it at some point. But I always felt like that album, it could have done with a song that was a bit like that, like these other ones. But I mean, I don't know. It's kind of just what I got used to, having like the big song at the end.
Yeah, I think it's got it, but I think it's far more subtle because it's all in that last minute or two.
Yeah.
Of the final track.
That's it. But yeah, Therapy for Pain, it does stick out from the other ones. It's got, the deep vocals. He never really went back to that. It's just very, very slow. But it just kind of stands out. I mean, it stands out on the album, doesn't it? It's just really, I don't know. It reminds me more of like Doom or something, but in a good way. I like it. It's got a cool atmosphere. A bit like depressive in a way, but kind of like, I think that suits the album.
Yeah, I think it's got kind of that, kind of that vibe of like the battle's over now. You're obviously bruised and bloody, but you're just kind of walking and walking and walking, purposeless, damaged, kind of like, as you say, Doomslayer and stuff like that. The battle's finished now, so what you're going to do with yourself? You just carry on walking, and then eventually you just drop.
Yeah, it's kind of sort of gothic sounding, isn't it? As well,
yeah, because
No.
it is quite a dark tone, isn't it? Like, if you that last verse, I'm trying to think of the last sentence I've had. It's when we finally reach the end. She lets go of my hand, walking into the realms of light. There will be no death tonight. Yeah, so it's like it has got that sort of finality to it, hasn't it? It kind of nicely rounds off the album.
Yeah, no, it's really grown on me. I wasn't really taken with it at first, but the more I listen, the more I'm like, I just really like it. But yeah, so that's like the main album. I was sure I was going to say something else about that last track, but I can't remember. I already said that. I thought it was cool that they reused some of those old riffs and stuff. Oh, I know what I was going to say. It went harder live than I remembered because, well, not that I remembered that than I expected, because it's not really a live song, is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think they wrote it thinking we're going to play this live kind of thing. But it hits quite hard, actually. Like, you wouldn't want to end a set on it. That's why they were ending with like Linchpin, which I think was a really good idea. Yeah. It doesn't feel like the song you want to walk off stage from. Therapy for Pain, for some reason. I don't know. I feel like you want to end on a high when it's live. In an album sense, yes, but in a live setting, I feel like you need to end on a bit more of a high.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like Enhanced Reality. Like, I really, really love that song. Like, I can't stress how much that song really resonates with me as a person.
Yeah.
But would you want to end a gig on that and have everyone going on sad? No. You've had a fucking great night. You don't want to be going home all depressed and stuff like that last song were really sad. 5 pints in.
Yeah, go to the pub straight after the show.
Yeah, you end up ringing bloody the Samaritans and crying down for like, I didn't know Fear Factory could make a sad song.
Yeah, no, it's a bit like that. Yeah, they both have that sort of somber feeling, I guess. Whereas, like, it's funny because you've got songs like Final Exit, where the subject matter is just like devastating, but it's so like powerful and uplifting that I feel like
Oh yeah, it's like that final fight in it before you go down, that second wind, and that sample they use, that to hold the hand of someone as they move from living to death.
It's fucking powerful shit, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, we've got to save that.
It's just an interesting thing that these songs, like A Therapy for Pain, you don't really see many bands doing that, and I quite like it when you get a band like Fear Factory, like a lot of the bands that I do love, metal bands, where they can have a bit of a sad song, because it shows that sort of ability to be diverse in the music that you're making. But I think also sometimes, you know, in all that hate and aggression and anger and stuff like that, sometimes there does need to be just a little bit, you know, just to pull things back into perspective. And that's kind of what I like about it. You know, it's like when we went to see Static X a few years ago, before Tony joined. No, had he already? No, I think Tony had already joined Fear Factory. I tell a lie, because it were Project Regeneration Volume 1 and 2, and I think he already joined for Genexus, if I remember correctly. But they finished out with December from Wisconsin Death Trip, and I don't know if you've heard that song, but it is like an instrumental sort of ambient drone that goes on for about 7 minutes, and it's like, you know, how strange that we'd sort of start a gig on that, you know, with that down, and then the moment it finishes, you kick into like Bled for Days, and it's just such a stark contrast that you're like, bloody hell, I weren't expecting that.
Yeah, it's interesting. You got to be careful designing these set lists, don't you? You got to start it right, you got to end it right, but they usually know what they're doing, don't they?
Well, that's it. You know, you don't want to be going home from a gig on a bloody downer, do you? Like after something deep, like A Therapy for Pain. That's, like I say, it's a very reflective song, isn't it? A lot of people probably have some quite deep thoughts about that song, the meanings of it, and what it means to them. You know, you don't want to come home more philosophical. That's why you've got to have a bit of a bounce afterwards.
On an album like studio level, it makes a lot of sense, because these last songs often give you a bit of food for thought, don't they? And you sort of end the album and you're still thinking about those lyrics and stuff and things. Actually, sometimes I feel like that's why they leave in that whole ambient bit, because you're still sort of thinking about it, and while that plays in the background, it sort of like eases you out of it.
And if you can let yourself sort of, like I've always had sort of an overactive imagination, so I'm more than happy to like close my eyes, just let the album run, and let your mind sort of daydream a bit, and provide some of your own imagery to the songs and stuff like that. And at the end of it, it's just like that silent contemplation of sort of what it means to you, and the kind of things that it made you think about as you go through the album. And it's interesting, because it's almost like, it's like when you finish a book. You know, it's like that last chapter. It always leaves the album closed, if that makes sense. You never feel like I never come away from a Fear Factory album thinking doesn't quite feel enough.
No,
you know,
I think it's all stemming from their love, especially Burton's love for like sci-fi and films and stuff. Because you watch a sci-fi film, they bloody get you going, don't they? Afterwards, you're like, oh, what about this? Like you watch Blade Runner, like you're thinking about that for a while afterwards. Like Matrix.
Oh.
Even not watching the Matrix after many times, you leave it just thinking about all these possibilities, don't you? And I think that's what he was going for, like lyrically, in a lot of these final songs. It's sort of like it's that ending credits, food for thought kind of thing. So I think that's where it's coming from.
On the back of what you're saying there, I could imagine A Therapy for Pain being like an ending song in a film as the credits come up, and you just left there like, mate.
Yeah. I feel like we'll get to it next time with like Obsolete, but I feel like that's when it became fully realized, like these full-blown concepts, like basically writing, you know, film trying to think of the word, storyboards in a way.
Almost, like scripts, innit? It's a story, it's a concept album, and that's what I like about it. You know, it's there's a lot of bands that have some fantastic albums, but it's just missing that something, and that's kind of what I think it is. Whether it's a theme or a story or even just that missing element that you kind of needed, that ingredient in the mix to make the recipe perfect. You know, I don't think I'd like the idea of a Fear Factory album without something like this at the end of it.
Yeah, it just feels right at this point. Like, I feel like Soul of a New Machine will let them off because they weren't really ready to do a song quite like that, maybe. Although I feel like Scarlet and Grief would be good, but I don't think it's quite like these other songs. Like,
yeah, and I mean, end of the line with Regression Continuum kind of felt like a heavy end, but again, like you say, that last 2 minutes of the song as it fades into that ambience, you know, and the synth thing, you just kind of, it gradually plays itself out. So I guess it gets a pass in that respect, you know. But yeah, I don't really know if they'd have ended up the same band if they wouldn't have followed this formula after that. Like, some of the albums would have felt a bit like anticlimactic, or, you know, just that they were missing something.
It's one of those things where it got me thinking, like, wow, I can't believe like more bands don't sort of like end their albums like this. But I just think like you got to be a specific type of band to make that work. Because like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of a band that could pull something like this off is probably like Metallica or something, because they're able to do those kind of songs as well. But then, you know, a band like Megadeth or something, they couldn't really, in my opinion, I don't think they could end on something like that.
No. I mean, I do genuinely love Megadeth,
Yeah,
but I mean, you look.
I really like them, but at the same time, is that the right kind of, like, could they end on like a ballad like that? I don't know if they could really.
No, I mean, he's got a Tout Le Monde, but again, you know, that's just like one song in a catalogue of, you know, bloody.
It was just one band that came to mind. I'm thinking of countless bands right now where I don't think they could get away with ending on something like that. Yeah.
And you know what, as well, I think a lot of bands aren't really willing to take that risk, because I mean, to make a truly emotionally great song that feels right, fits with the band, the album, the, you know, the image and stuff like that, that's part of the formula, but doesn't kind of ruin it, must be hard. Because I couldn't imagine, say, for example, Slipknot ending on a song like that, or Meshuggah, or, you know, God knows how many bands, or Disturbed, or I don't. Do Korn really do sort of thematic songs like that? I mean, I've not listened to enough of them, but I couldn't imagine Jonathan Davis ending an album with, like, you know, a quiet ballad, like you say. Yeah. But I mean, maybe that's one of the things that you just got to really love about the band. You know, as much as this is such a defining album for their band, their image and things like that, you know, they took a lot of risks. They really did take a lot of risks, whether it was the clean and harsh vocals, whether it was the themes and the lyrics and things like that, or just the fact that the last song on the album is not that killer punchy, heavy, you know, and you don't come away thinking to yourself that you were disappointed. You're like, yeah.
This is a bit like where I feel like it's one of those extra things that really set them apart from the peers at the time, because, I mean, not that I've checked out everything in those kind of genres, but you wouldn't see like Pantera, Machine Head, Sepultura, like, they're not going to end an album like that.
No.
Surely.
No. And I mean, even though you've got songs like Snuff and Vermilion Part 2 with Slipknot.
Songs like that exist, yeah, but they probably wouldn't sort of.
No, they're like 4 or 5 tracks in, aren't they? They've not got the bollocks to end an album like that, because I don't think they can pull it off. But you know, it's a really rare skill. I remember one of the things that me and my cousin said when we were sort of getting into starting our band, and we looked at our influences and stuff, and said, you know, if we can end up somewhere between Fear Factory and Megadeth, I'd really be quite happy with that. You know, not that we're aiming to just stick the two in a blender. It was just an idea of what we'd like.
It's a starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you have to be able to be diverse. You know, it's easy to have every song sound the same. You know, you could have had another 4 or 5 Flashpoints and Hunter Killers, or you could have had another 4 Replicas, or another. Do you know what I mean? But to have that differentiation to show that not only can you make a really good metal song, but you can actually make something a bit quieter, a bit more ambient, a bit different. You know, it's quite a powerful tool. Is that it certainly shows your talent as a musician, that you're not a one-trick pony. And like we said earlier in the in the discussion as well, it's not relying on solos, for example. It's not relying on anything flashy. It's not a show of, oh look, I can sweep pick, I can do this, I can do that. You know, it's not a show off. It's just making great music.
Yeah, I think this is like this album. There's not, despite all that diversity, I wouldn't say anything feels out of place. Like, it all feels cohesive. Yeah. Dog Day Sunrise, Therapy for Pain, they probably stick out the most, but they still, like, you've got the same tone, you've got the same kind of drum sound, you've got the same production. So like they don't stick out to me like too much, just enough to be like, oh, that's a nice bit of variety.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you end up where every single song sounds the same, you can very quickly you can lose your audience, because you end up just like a one-trick pony. And I know too many bands who've done that over time, but the fact that they're willing to take risks and do something different, and did from the very beginning, I think it's a lot to be respectful for. And they've obviously influenced a lot of bands, probably more than a lot of the bands themselves are willing to say. I mean, I can't think of many bands who've turned around and gone, oh yeah, Fear Factory were a huge inspiration to us. Not that you should have to come out and name check every band that inspired you anyway, but you can always tell. You can always tell, and people make me laugh now because, like I say, I was a kid when this album came out, so this wasn't something I listened to until I was like 8-9 years old. But then, if you listen to some of like the new metal bands and the bands coming through like metalcore and gent and stuff like that, as whatever they want to call it these days. They're acting like it's all brand new, and it's like, have you never listened to Fear Factory?
Yeah, I mean, like the gent thing, like you listen to a lot of Meshuggah as well, especially God, what was that album? Was it like, honestly, it was called Nothing. Was it Nothing? The one from like it came out in like 2000. Like they were like 20 years ahead of the game.
Was that the one with Stenger?
Yeah, like they were 20. Like it's not really my jam. But I put some on, like just one or two, and I'm like, bloody hell! Like they were ahead of the game though. No one in their right mind can deny how advanced that album was for them. It's like, what they were like, and then you've got people sort of crediting other bands like 15, 20 years later, and it's like, what?
Yeah, and that's the kind of problem that you end up faced with, because you to be a pioneer or something, you have to take risks and you have to be different. But then, when you pioneer something, it's like, where do you fit in then? I would argue, for the majority of Fear Factory's existence, that they would be considered to be industrial metal. People may disagree, and I'm not saying all of it is industrial metal, but I'd like to think the vast majority of what they've done fits into that category. But then, you can't wholly say they fit in that category, and that's where it gets difficult, because like they've made comments before about how record labels and people were trying to usher them into this new metal category, and it's like, but they're not. They're not, so you can't force them into a box. If the shape doesn't fit the hole, it's not going to happen. But then where do you put them? And it's like, it's difficult then to relate, because you can name 100. Well, no, that's probably a bit excessive, but you can probably name a handful of bands that all have a similar sort of maybe sound or formula, blueprint, whatever you want to say, and they're all within that new metal genre, if that's what you want to call it, or it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. And then that's the beauty of Fear Factory and albums like Demanufacture. You kind of like, I don't quite know where to put them, because there's a bit of this, and there's a bit of that, and there's a bit of this, and there's a bit of that. And you can stick them in industrial metal for sure, but then you'll always have people who go, oh, if you didn't have this band, if you didn't have that band, you wouldn't have had Fear Factory. And it's like, well, that's all well and good, but what I'm now saying is, them bands have been and gone. Fear Factory is here now, and these bands that you're telling me are so unique and amazing are doing things they did in 1998, in 95, in 2000, with Digimortal and things like that. And people just don't want to believe you. But the influence for
there's always going to be those outlying bands that you can't quite categorize. Like, and I feel like the '90s is where a lot of that really came about. Like where genres did start to get merged more. Like the main ones that start coming to mind is like you've got Cynic, which is one of my favorite bands. Like their first album, you literally can't put that in a genre. It's just like people say progressive metal. Some people say it's like jazz fusion kind of metal. It's technical death metal. Like there's all these different things. Like that's when you know you've pretty much made your own sound. And then you've got bands like Dream Theater, Tool, Opeth, which we'll just say it's progressive metal. But to me, that generally means you've probably made your own kind of style, because not so much now, but back in the '90s, like that pretty much means you've kind of crafted your own distinct sound there. What else am I thinking of? Even like Death, like they're like, you could just say they're a death metal band, but like they have their own sound, like undeniable. Like especially those last 4 albums, they really broke away from the rest of the scene, and just you can hear like 4 seconds of it and you know exactly who it is, because Chuck had such a like distinct way of playing guitar. It's like that with Fear Factory, like within 5 seconds who's playing.
It's Fear Factory, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas there's always going to be those other scenes where they're kind of like, oh, that's definitely that. Like, that Limp Bizkit's new metal, that like Deftones is new metal. Like, it was easier with certain bands. And that doesn't mean one band's better than the other. It just means some have got this more distinct thing rather than being part of this whole like scene, I guess.
Yeah, and I'd say it's equally as much of an achievement to be a great band within whatever box they put you in, whether that is new metal or what. Because there's hundreds of them. There's so many bands that, like we were saying earlier between us, they stuck the songs in video games in the hopes that they were going to become huge bands. I remember Cold had With My Mind in Psyops, and Adema did Immortal for Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, and I could probably rhyme off like 30, 40 other games with songs in them, and it's like a lot of the bands never really went anywhere. So to be a big player in that pool is great, but I'd say it's even much of an achievement to have like a legacy like Fear Factory and not have someone put you in a box. In fact, if anything, it's probably more a testament to the skill of the musicians that you can't put them in a box, because number one, why would you want to? And number two, what a great way to demonstrate your ability as a musician than to have someone go, actually, I don't know where I'd put you.
Yeah. I think like now it's becoming more normalized because people are like mixing genres like so much. But back then it's like, what do we do with you? I'm like, but it's funny because like you see the bands that like Fear Factory have like toured with, and I'm like, they're with like Slayer, they're with like these death metal bands they've done with like Ozzy and Iron Maiden. Like you can put them with anyone pretty much. Like as long as it's heavy enough, they're kind of getting away with it. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
And it's being unique as well, which is it's a great thing. They don't seem to march to anyone else's rhythm. They're not kind of trying to be the next whatever. They're just happy being themselves, and fucking fair play to them.
Yeah. We better just touch on the bonus tracks just quickly and then wrap it up, I reckon.
Yep.
But like I said, there's only like 3 songs. There's not a whole lot to say, I suppose, really. But Your Mistake, like it's a cover I found out of. Is it Agnostic Front? I think they're called. But here's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
I said to you the other day, like, oh, vocals sound like really weird. It's not actually Burton. That's why. It's some guy from another. I think he's from like a hardcore punk band. I can't remember his name, unfortunately.
It's only like a minute and a half long, isn't it? So it doesn't really like outlive its welcome, if that makes sense.
I have to admit though, I was just out of interest. I was like, oh, I wonder if they ever played it live. And then Burton's doing it live, and I was like, actually, I really enjoyed that a lot more. Like it was just like quick little in and out little punk song, and I was like, why not? Bit of fun live. And I think that's maybe why they put it as a bonus track. They were like, oh, we've been doing it live, might as well stick it in there, kind of thing. So yeah, I definitely prefer the live version. I think he might be in there on the studio one, like in the background a little bit, but that's why I was thinking, like, it just doesn't sound like him, which threw me off. So yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, there's not much to say about it, is it? It's just like
a little punk song, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's different, but would I have wanted it on the main album? I wouldn't have been upset if he said it was going to be a bonus track.
Yeah, it's definitely got that bonus track feel. It doesn't feel like it adds that much, really.
I mean, we're not talking about the T album again, where the bonus track is probably actually the best song.
Looking forward to talking about that track.
Just hyping people up for that discussion.
And then was it Resistencia? I can't say it. I guess it's like Spanish of resistance.
Resistencia.
Yeah.
Ascension.
I don't know. I listened to it a few times and I was like, I prefer it to the other one. It does feel more. This one definitely feels more demanufactured to me. It's got all the, it's got the riffs, it's got the double bass, it's got all the things, but it's just not that memorable. And I think that's why it was a bonus track. Like, I quite like the bit where it was like out of sight, out of mind. But I was just like, you know what? Everything else on the album kind of does this better. So I think that's why it ended up being a bonus track.
I think I'd have struggled choosing between that and Flashpoint. I think if I was in charge, I'd have had a real doozy. And I might have ended up just chucking both of them in because I wouldn't have been able to make a decision.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I don't have that much to say about that one. But Concreto, I've actually, I've been listening to this a few times because I was, in preparation for this. And I was like, wow, I've really been sleeping on this song. I actually, really, really like it because the vocal...
It grows on you.
Yeah, the vocal style is just so weird. I'm just like, what are you doing? But I kind of love it, for that reason, that it's not really singing, it's not really a growl, it's just kind of like this droney kind of vocal. And I went back and listened to the original Concrete from the supposed first album, and that one was all growled, and I was like, although that was cool, I feel like this one made it stand out a bit more. And then you've got the more clicky drums, better production overall. And I found out this one it didn't really come out on the album. It was with the Dog Day Sunrise EP, but they put it on a special edition by the looks of it, at least on Spotify. So I know it's on Obsolete Special Edition as well, but I felt like it made more sense to talk about that.
I might even have it on vinyl, I'm sure I've got it really? On... yeah, it's one of the few ones that I've got. Let's have a look. So that's the actual Dog Day Sunrise one.
Oh yeah, it should be on there then.
Yeah, Concreto, it's on side 2.
Yeah, so it basically came out in '96 originally, I guess.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Look at that youthful Fear Factory.
Nice.
Bloody hell. I don't tend to get the vinyls out very often, to be honest, and I only found this on the off chance that they had some random LP market on where I live, and I was like, oh my god, is that what I think it is? I'll have it.
Yeah.
Just a shame that some absolute so-and-so thought it were a wonderful idea to put the price sticker on the front, and it were there that long, allegedly, not sold it in a long time, that the sticker physically merged into the bloody album art. I was like, oh, for God's sake. But yeah, I didn't even realise that it was on the single.
It's quite confusing because there's the original Concrete version, then there's
Concreto
on the EP,
and then 1998,
which is actually just the same as the one you just showed me, which makes it even more confusing. So I had to do a bit of digging to figure this out. Yeah, my favourite bit of the song though is when he's just concrete, and there's this riff underneath, and it's actually the sickest riff. That bit, that's the bit that stands out the most to me is that riff underneath, and just the weird vocals. It's just it's one of those things where I'm like, you would not want a whole album of those vocals, but just on the one track, I'm like, this is weird and interesting and quite industrial sounding.
It is a shame to an extent that it didn't end up on the core album, because I do agree it is a good song and it is catchy. It does get stuck in your head once you listen to it.
I think if it was on the main album, do you mean as a bonus track?
Well, no, I mean literally on the main album.
I think it would stick out too much though, maybe, because those vocals are really different. I don't know.
Do you think it might sort of give you the Soul of a New Machine vibes in how certain songs just felt a bit different there?
yeah, it might just stick out a bit too much. I don't know. Maybe if the vocals were changed slightly to fit more with the rest, maybe. But then I kind of like it like this. I think it kind of works better as a bonus track because then it's sort of a bit separate from the end. But
yeah, true.
Yeah, I don't know. But no, I like it, and I think I'm going to keep listening to it more because sometimes these bonus tracks you end up sort of like sleeping on them by accident, and I'm like, don't want to do that.
I think I need to get a new copy of. I've got Demanufacture on sort of dual case CD, but I think it's one of the like later releases or something. I know there's a blue disc version that's got the bonus tracks on, and I won't mind getting it at one point. I do like quite a lot of the bonus tracks they put on the albums. You know, like you say, once you listen to Enhanced Reality at the end of Genexus, and you're like, how was this not on the industrialist? You know, you kind of put two and two together very quickly, but some of them are really, really good songs, and
they've got,
you know,
most bands' bonus tracks are just they're bonus tracks for a reason. But there's there's several Fear Factory songs where I'm like, how has this not made the cut? Like on some of the later albums. So yeah, we'll get to them. But it's quite unusual.
You must give the producers a headache and a half with it.
I think that's where the problem must have been for some of them, is that the producers are saying, no, you've got to have that as a bonus track, whereas the band probably would have put it as a main one. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, sometimes you do get that sort of interference from the record label and stuff, don't you? And, I mean, on that topic to an extent, you know, I think it is Roadrunner that they did demanufacture with, is it not? I might have to Google this, so I'm not eating a bit of humble pie. But I don't think that Burton's ever been particularly, let's say, positive or well spoken when it comes to Roadrunner. It feels like they've definitely pissed these guys off. Maybe not all of them, but yeah, Roadrunner with a label. There's a lot that goes on in the background that we don't know about, isn't there? And it's very much.
I'm just thinking about slave labor lyrics now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's there for a reason, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it, you know, they said it about, or at least Burton said it about Digimortal, and to an extent, I mean, I'd love to hear what it actually was supposed to sound like and what the original vision was like. You know, it's all well and good the band produced these albums and think, right, that's brilliant. You know, we'll leave it as is. But then it comes back from the producers, and it's like, what have you done?
Yeah.
You know, and you expect us to play this, and I imagine it could probably lead to a few arguments, or maybe, like you say,
I'm still holding out hope that Dino's got a hard drive somewhere. It's got all the demo versions of Digimortal. That would make a great 30th year special edition kind of thing, I reckon.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see who's got what, wouldn't it? You know, just out of curiosity.
Maybe the only one they had was like Dark Bodies, because they put that on there, didn't they? On Hay Files, but I don't know. I imagine there's more to that, because that was around the time of like digital, right? So they would have probably had backups and stuff. Like, I don't know.
It just kind of make you think. I wonder if Raymond or Christian have any, you know, bits and bats that people haven't heard, and you know, it just makes you think, doesn't it? It's you've got quite a lot of history with this wonderful band, and you know, even though it started with these first albums like Soul of a New Machine and Demanufacture, there's you know, a lot more than bonus tracks out there to be listened to. But I suppose that's another topic for another day.
I've got a feeling that we haven't heard everything like from the back catalogue. Like, I reckon there's some demos lying around that will hopefully surface at some point, whether that's in a couple of years or 20 years, like whatever it is. I reckon at some point, because you can tell they worked on a lot of extra stuff. So
well, I mean, Roadrunner dropped that bloody album out of nowhere, didn't they? A couple of years ago.
What
were it called? Oh, I'm trying to think. I don't think it was too long before, and I'm going to have to quickly Google this, but I remember one of the Fear Factory albums was due out, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Roadrunner released like the Essential Fear Factory or something like that, and I'm like, what? Like, why drop that now? You know, this almost feels like interference, if that makes sense, or just them saying, yeah, we still have the rights to these, Oh, sorry. Is it the 2001? Can't seem to find it offhand. Unless it were a bit earlier on in like the. Oh yeah, maybe it was. Hang on. The Best of Fear Factory 2006. No, in fact, I'm not even sure it's that. Oh god, this is going to drive me up the wall now. Might be worth ignoring me for 10 minutes because I'm having a bit of a brain meltdown. It's late.
We'll revisit it next time. You can do your research and then we'll mention it
next time on the Fear Factory podcast.
Yeah, I reckon this is a good point to wrap it up there. God, it is me thinking like, oh, this will just be an hour episode. We'll get in and out. It's probably been like 2-3 hours.
Well, what else can you say? You know, it's a great album. There's a lot to be said about it. There's probably even more we could say about it with time and, you know, more planning and stuff like that. But I think if you really want to get into Fear Factory from the very beginning, then you know you gotta at some point listen to Demanufacturing. It is, you know,
my
it
final
is.
thoughts are I'm glad that although the band maybe overall didn't get as much recognition as they probably should have, this album definitely, you know, you look now at least, like, you know, these top like metal album lists, like it's usually on there somewhere. Maybe it's not at the highest, but it's on there, and
Yeah,
like it's been recognized for what it was. So it's one that will go down in the history books no matter what, really.
yeah, and I think, like you say, that there's a lot of there's a lot of influence there in bands, you know, that play today, and whether they want to admit it or not, that, you know, Fear Factory was a big inspiration. You can hear it, so it doesn't explicitly need to be said, but it's the start of you know, a hell of a journey. We've got a lot more albums to talk about after this, you know, mixed things that we probably think, but you know, this was the first album that really had that, you know, not to make a pun, but concrete blueprint, you know, of what the band were. So fair play. You can do a lot worse for yourself. You can really do a lot worse for what it is. Fantastic album, timeless. It's a shame maybe not as many people appreciate it as they could.
I think it's one of those though that, you know, the point is it's being documented on all these lists and everything. So I think it'll always be out there, like at least in like, you know, for industrial metal circles, I reckon it will always be talked about to some degree. Maybe not as much as you'd think, but at least for like industrial, like it's there, isn't it? I always see it on every list.
Yeah, if you're a fan of metal music and you're open-minded and you really want to see what's out there in the wide world of metal, you've got to listen to Demanufacture. Yeah. You have to. It's quintessential. It is what I'd say.
Yeah. Like Zero Signal. Just put that on.
Mortal Kombat.
In fact, you know what? Zero Signal is probably one of the best songs to show someone who's never heard the band before, because it really does do everything. I sometimes think that or Dielectric, probably one or the other.
Oh, what a song! Yeah,
because doesn't Dielectric kind of tick all those boxes as well?
I mean, a lot of people I know very much enjoyed that song when I, you know, shared it at the time. I were actually working at a second-hand shop when the album came out, Genexus, and I was listening to Regenerate, and one of the lads were just like, fucking hell, them drums are a bit. I'm like, I know, you should listen to the rest of the album. And in no time, 3 more Fear Factory fans. And funnily enough, everyone were like, Dielectric is a tune. I'm like, I know. It's let me show you all these other albums.
It's basically, if you can get into songs like Zero Signal or songs like that, it'll open the door for everything else. Because you're getting a taste of a bit of everything. And then, you've got all these other songs that are kind of like variations on that. So.
Yeah, and if you've not really listened to Fear Factory before, and you know you enjoy that music that you listen to, whether it's old or new, you know you got a treat really. I mean, you've got 11, 12 albums worth of material to listen to, another one on the horizon, all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot to get lost in.
Oh yes, there's a lot of songs. You won't I mean, I've been listening for like years on end now. It's always like my top artist at the minute, just because the amount of songs. You kind of like you finish with one album and then you can go, I'll go to the middle era, I'll go to the late era, or go back to the beginning. Like there's always something else to go back into. I'm still not bored with it. Definitely, I will.
I know. I keep coming back to what's it called? Archetype recently.
Yeah.
Literally through no other fact than the missus has been on a bit of a horror binge, and I forgot that Bite the Hand That Bleeds was in the Saw films. It got stuck in my head again. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's quite impressive they go on a Saw soundtrack.
Yeah. I mean, one way or another, they get stuck in your head, and then you've just got to listen to them again. So
yeah,
what you do.
Anyway, on that note, we will be back next time for Obsolete.
Obsolete.
Yeah, looking forward to that. It's the other big one.
Plenty to say on that one.
I often think of Demanufacture as like the really cold, sterile kind of album, and then you've got Obsolete, which is a lot warmer. So they're like they're similar but very different at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain until we do a deep dive on it, but they're kind of like yin and yang, aren't they? Really.
It's a nice continuation of the story as well. The kind of themes that they're building on and the world that they've imagined. I quite think that the story of Obsolete is really interesting.
Yeah, we'll get stuck into that next time. So, yeah, see you all then.